And live. And you're live on YouTube.
Okay, I'd like to call the Planning Commission special meeting / workshop agenda to order. It is 6:07 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, microphones are working, please check. Mic check, you're good?
Good.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Stratton,
Here.
Merchant, here, Peltonen, here, Trumbull,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Rebant,
Here.
Milnick.
Here.
Okay. Any adjustments to the meeting agenda? Can I have a motion to accept the agenda as written?
I make a motion to accept the agenda, Merchant.
I'll second Melnick.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Okay. Declaration of conflict of interest pertinent to the agenda item.
No.
None?
None.
Okay. All right. Thank you for joining us at this 1-hour workshop. We're going to be discussing the proposed repeal and replacement of Article 6 planned unit developments. The way the COPUD is currently written creates confusion about permitted uses and development standards. Problems with this zoning district were identified some time ago, but it was decided that we should wait until the master plan was updated to address them. Andy will be going through some of the technical issues and problems, but the focus is on clarifying what is required and what standards need to be met. The PC feels it is important that property owners know and understand how their property is zoned and what is required when they develop or redevelop property. Article 6 currently contains much ambiguity and vagueness. It is also cumbersome procedurally as it involves rezoning property to get a project approved. This creates an extra unneeded step.
Yeah, you're dead in the water again here. Wi-Fi's down. Maybe take a recess and I'll reset up there and then you can start. I'll plug into that Ethernet again.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll take a short
It looks
recess.
like it's just coming in and out. So, all right.
Could we bring him in like on my phone?
You could, but then we still don't have the live stream right now. The live stream's dead. So the only way I can get the live stream is to go up there.
Or does it matter?
Will the cord reach Randy's or will it reach Scott?
Maybe to Deb. Can you send it
Oh.
to Deb so that way
Okay.
she can just send it to the printer? Or can you print out what they're sending you?
Yeah, they send it into my email.
Yeah,
Yep.
And
well, we need to.
we're back live.
Try again. Article 6 currently maintains much ambiguity and vagueness. It is also cumbersome procedurally as it involves rezoning property to get a project approved. This creates an extra unneeded step and slows down projects. Zoning should be clear and understandable to everyone, and that is the aim of the Planning Commission. You can't be forced to meet new standards unless you or until you develop or redevelop property. The current master plan was adopted in 2025, so the township hired Giffords Webster, a community planning firm, to identify any additional ordinance issues and to work with the PC to rewrite Article 6. Andy Ammett from Giffords Webster is with us tonight via Zoom to present the proposed Article 6 and to answer any questions you may have. In the packets that you received through the mail, you have the proposed Article 6 as well as the Article 6 information sheet. So we're we're going to print out copies of Andy's PowerPoint slides so that so that you all can follow along with his presentation, since we're not going to be able to see his slides on the screen. All right.
Okay,
Andy, would you like to get started?
just a moment.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Do you want to nod or confirm?
Yep.
Great. I can hear and see you, so it's
Oh,
a
you
very
can?
interesting dynamic we have here.
Okay.
If you ever stop hearing me, just like stand up and wave your arms or interrupt because I will be able to catch that. Thanks for having me, everybody. Probably a good thing you can't see me because I'm sweaty. It's about 96 degrees right now. And I hope everyone is having a good holiday week. So, I'm happy to discuss the COPUD to M72 overlay proposal with you tonight. And so before you get kind of the slides, and I want to just be transparent. The slides aren't going to say a ton. The flyer you that was published on the web page that I understand a lot of people have looked at in terms of the changes. That's going to speak more to anything I think this PowerPoint can do. But I just want to cover a few things real quick from an educational standpoint as well. So we're here because zoning is one of the most important implementation tasks of a community's master plan, of a community's 10 to 20 year long-term planning vision. So the fact that the township updated and adopted a new master plan in 2025 meant that some key zoning changes were needed. So the difference between a master plan and a zoning ordinance is the master plan sets the vision for the community, it sets the goals and objectives for a community, but the zoning ordinance really gets down to the nuts and bolts of law. And it's the key follow-up task for a community after a master plan. I think it's great that you are forward thinking and that you are trying to meet the community's needs with your long-term planning and with your zoning process. So right now we're updating the zoning ordinance. We're part of a zoning rewrite project. We have what we call a multi-bundle process where we're going to cover a bunch of different bundles throughout the process. I think we have 5 or 6 proposed. Preliminarily, this is bundle one. Uh, it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of great collaboration that the Planning Commission has gone through to get to the point that we are at. So I just want to preface with this. Does everybody have the slides by now?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I can keep going just for a matter of time. I want to make sure we have enough time for open discussion as well. So I want to just quickly cover zoning basics from a very broad lens. Um, I have just with the Independence Day week, I have a few little cartoons of the founding fathers. And this is something that the United States of America has been grappling with forever, is how do you balance private property rights with the needs of society and with creating a society that's safe and sustainable. The founding fathers actually grappled with that. Some were on the side of give people private property rights as thoroughly and as vigorously as possible, and some like Benjamin Franklin, were on the spectrum of, well, give private property rights, but make sure they aren't affecting the society. Make sure the society is kept uh, in well-being. The general welfare is kept. So zoning is kind of the bridge between both, which gives us a really interesting dynamic when we deal with zoning, is because some of the general code ordinances are ordinances that can be applied on the spot or retroactively almost, like they can be applied to current situations, whereas zoning you can't apply zoning retroactively.
Thanks.
Nothing is retroactive. You can't be forced to meet new requirements just on the basis of there being new requirements. The way new requirements are prompted are when you want to build or you want to develop, you want to redevelop, and you want to actually do something tangible to your property. That's where zoning kicks in. So I just want to be clear with everybody here that the fact that the community is updating the zoning ordinance does not mean that you're in imminent danger of your property changing or you needing to do this or that. It's really applied in new circumstances. But that being said, I think we do understand prior property owners' concerns as well, because we are trying to strike that balance, as I stated, of regulating in a way that improves the community, uh, moves the township towards the master plan goals, but at the same time, is not hindering your rights. And when I look at this, the current COPUD ordinance, as an outsider, and as a nerdy zoning fan, I see a lot of ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of issues with the way the current ordinance is written. And that's one of the reasons we're trying to clean this up, is just the fact that um, the unpredictability could really hinder a private property owner in their ability to redevelop, their ability to market the property for future use or future buyers, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. The current ordinance is actually a PUD, so I'm on my fourth slide. The what is a PUD slide. So the current
Actually, Andy,
ordinance.
we can see your slides now.
Okay, great. Oh yeah, I see it up on the screen. So so the way the COPUD is right now is there's the properties on M72 are subject to what's called the COPUD, and it's a PUD, a planned unit development option, or development type. But that's really head scratching to me, as somebody who's deals with PUD ordinances and deals with different communities, development options. The planned unit development should really be what's called a development option. It should be at the request of the developer or the applicant. Somebody shouldn't be required to apply for a PUD, and that's the way the ordinance is written right now. A PUD's intent is to be a flexible development tool for developers or property owners who want to offer innovative development, who are trying to do something that maybe is a square peg in a round hole, or whatever the metaphor is, that the developer is trying to do something that is not necessarily meeting conventional zoning in a one-to-one manner. It's the developer is looking to do something that might be high tech, it might be new, it might introduce a new technology, it might just introduce a new housing type or a type of market, a type of land use that is popular on the market, that's marketable. Um, and PUDs should be used for those occasions. They shouldn't be just a blanket application for by right development or for conventional zoning development. And that's the way the ordinance is written right now. And that I'll get to in a moment, but there's a lot of overregulation, in my opinion, that this can uh, bring about, because there's a long process, there's a ton of decision makers, and it's a really uncertain decision process. And I'll get to that in a moment again. So then the other part of the current COPUD is, or this current task, is that we are trying to create more of a true zoning overlay district. And that's why we call this kind of the COPUD to, with an arrow, to M72 overlay when we talk about this, because we're trying to create more of a true overlay. In terms of zoning in general, one of the main reasons you would install a zoning overlay would be to help create a set of unified design or development standards throughout, like, a particular road corridor, or a particular geography, um, um, you know, rather than something that might be applied to the entire community. And this is actually the next slide, if you want to advance the slide one. Um, and most zoning overlays keep the underlying zoning district from like a permitted use standpoint to say what uses are permitted here. And then sometimes they keep the base dimensional requirements as well, so things like setbacks, lot size, lot width, etc. Um, and I'll get to what we're doing in a moment, but that's what we're trying to do here is that second paragraph here. Uh, Use the underlying district's permitted uses and dimensional requirements, but you know, kind of enhance the design and the look, the aesthetic, the landscaping, the screening, the waste management of the corridor a bit more. So next slide here. In terms of this overlay, we are proposing to apply this to all M72 properties between the Western Township boundary and Cook Road, except the V1 Village District. So that purple blob that you see there, that would just still follow the V1 district, just because that's its own like unique district that the township has worked on a lot of planning, master plan effort, visions, and goals and objectives for. So, that being said, there are currently 4 COPUD properties in the township. There is the one at Williamsburg Road, the industrial property that will be rezoned. Our plan, and this is obviously this is all working. Our proposal is to rezone that to N1 as the underlying district, which is an industrial district. That's really what it is an industrial property, and then apply the overlay for, for redevelopment for in terms of landscaping and design and these goals that we talk about later on. There's 3 COPUD zoned properties that are further east on M72. And the proposal is to then match those as C1 with the rest of the corridor. That's the commercial district. And these are all, it looks like mostly commercial properties. There is some outdoor storage element of the Ginnups property. So we'll that's something that can be discussed is, the perhaps the extent of outdoor storage in the overlay going forward. Obviously, again, we can't change what's existing though, unless the property owner applies for a change through a site plan review. I want to touch on the chart real quick too, and I don't want to spend a ton of time here because I think the public's been able to have this for a little bit of time, for at least 2 weeks or so. I know it was posted on the website, and so I want to cover a couple changes here and a couple of, even since it was published, a couple ideas that I've kind of double checked and have almost come around to a couple small suggested changes on. This has been a lot of work, and you've developed a lot of this through a lot of good planning, good discussion, planning commission. So, but I think even so, we're catching things to this point. So in terms of the comparison, the current COPUD ordinance has an applicability is it's only applicable for all development projects containing principal structures of at least 4,000 square feet. Right now, our idea is to apply that to all development projects, but I contain that blue note there because I actually think the better way to phrase this would be to say we only apply this when a project goes before site plan review. That means I believe an addition of over, I think it's over 1,000 square feet or 10% of the building, whichever is less. That means that changes of use that are not changing the property, the parking, the landscaping, things like that on the site plan, are able to change to other C1 uses if it's a C1 underlying property and not trigger the M72 overlay. It's really for that big stuff. And right now it's currently for the big stuff as well, but there's and I'll keep getting to it in this little review. But there's just so much ambiguity on the kind of process that it goes through, on if what kind of uses are permitted, if there were to be a change of use. So again, we're just trying to make things more clear. And I do suggest, and Planning Commission will have a chance to look at this in a formal sense as well. But I do suggest that we do consider rewriting the proposed 6.03 to require this for site plan review only. I'm gonna just click through a couple things really fast here because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So right now, the COPUD follows the PUD process, which requires a rezoning, requires a Plan Commission public hearing, requires Plan Commission site plan review, and requires Township Board final approval. It can also require a community impact statement if there is a big property. With it requiring a rezoning means that a referendum could be proposed by people in the community and they could actually overturn a development because people might not like it. Um, that's a huge problem. So I think that you remove the rezoning requirement definitely because I think that that's I get it. We live in in a society where we want to do things democratically, but that's the planning commission and townships boards responsibility is to be reactive, to serve the township's best interest in the planning efforts, the zoning efforts, and make the tough decisions on approving or denying a project. It would be very unfortunate if a developer, a property owner, it can be somebody local. When I say developer, I don't just mean the investment property who lives in Florida. It could be a local property owner who wants to build this and it get overturned because some residents in the community uh, petition it. So we would remove a lot of those requirements and we would make this a straightforward process where it just goes before planning commission for site plan review. Next slide, and this is, I think we got two more real quick. I'm not going to dwell on this slide a ton. I think we can discuss this as a team, as a group here if we need to. The next slide, I've got another little blue pop-out bubble. Um, the for outdoor display, our current draft actually does not limit outdoor display limits. Um, the existing ordinance does, and I think it's sensible to bring that back in, to actually bring that back in and limit outdoor display of like for sale vehicles to a maximum of four, then have all other outdoor vehicles screened behind a wall or landscaping. That way, we are making sure that the townships, the road corridors image is kind of protected and more consistent with less outdoor storage. Um, and then I'm not going to dwell on the next slide. I want to I want to make sure we have some time. And then the next slide here that says proposed changes, I've got a paragraph here, a sentence. So again, the existing ordinance's underlying districts, permissible uses are unclear. It's really unclear in the existing COPUD ordinance whether or not, whether the property can just even change the use to another use. I don't know if the ordinance's intent was to have, if somebody wants to be a COPUD, to be a bookstore, if they've got to be a bookstore into perpetuity and come back before planning commission for the full COPUD rezoning, planning commission, and township board approval to just simply change it to a coffee shop. That's unclear, and I think that that's a huge problem for the community. We're trying to fix this so that that would not be the case. Next slide real quick. So next steps, Planning Commission is going to continue discussing this. I'm impressed by the effort that it's taken to kind of collaborate here and get to a point that is going to meet the community's best interests. And so I would say don't rush it. Keep discussing until you're comfortable with an ordinance that is meeting uh, your goals. And once you are satisfied, you may move to set the formal public hearing for the text amendment and the rezoning at an upcoming meeting. So this will not be by any means the last chance you and the public sees this. And that's it for my presentation. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. So we're going to open the discussion up to the floor. If you would like to ask a question of either the PC or Andy, please come to the podium and we need you to state your name and address.
Kim Mangus, 5101 Brown Bear. I guess I'm looking for clarification. The interpretation of our existing COPUD was always that it was an optional design tool that a business could choose if they wanted more flexibility. My read of this is we are going to a non-optional mandatory overlay. I understand it wouldn't kick in unless someone wanted, well, to stay in business, to do anything new, which businesses have to change and evolve. That's normal. Is there something I'm misreading here? That the previous was an optional choice and this is a mandate?
Are you asking?
Planner, you,
Right. So-
whoever, that's my understanding, and I'm wondering if I'm misreading something
Yeah.
or if I,
The problem is that the verbiage isn't there to support that. So right now, there's no underlying zoning on those 4 properties, that are currently COPUD. So we have no information about what uses are allowed. And Randy, correct me, or Andy, either way.
Yep,
correct
yep,
me if I'm
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, you're correct. So when something's rezoned to a COPUD, what happens if someone wants to change the use? What governs the uses that are permitted there in the future? That's not clear at all.
Okay.
Also, it does not say optional in the ordinance to my reading. So I would just think that if the 4 that are currently zoned COPUD are just held to this into perpetuity, until they, for any future change on the property, they would be held to this. And then I think it kicks in on the other properties. There's like 32 others that are governed by it from a boundary standpoint. The whole within 500 feet of the M72 uh, center line, that this would kick in if they are doing 4,000 square feet or more of work to their property, of building to their property.
okay, so was it really just that it was not laid out when their projects were approved? I know because I was there for all of them.
I don't know what happened when they
And
were
it
approved.
was, the intent and understanding within the planning commission was that the underlying zoning stayed in place. So if
Are
I'm
there-
reading you correctly, that simply didn't come through in the filed paperwork?
Right.
Yeah, that could be the case. The township could need to look at that filed paperwork when these were approved to see if there was a condition by planning commission at that time that said, oh, you're allowed to do the COPUD, the use applied for plus X, Y, and Z other uses. That could be completely possible, but it would entail a digging of the records.
Okay.
Of
Because
when
what
those
we were,
approvals happened.
this was a variety of different zoning administrators over a period of years. But
Mhm.
our understanding at the time for each was that the industrial property still remained industrial COPUD. The commercial remained a commercial COPUD, could do anything you could do in a commercial district with the additional caveats and restrictions of a COPUD.
That's right. And
Got it.
so what we're doing is making that clear. That
Okay,
that
but-
they're
Yeah.
going back to the underlying.
But what I'm seeing here is not a new COPUD. This is an overlay district. That
Mhm.
is an entirely different creature. Where am I getting lost? Or am I?
Well,
I mean, it is different. An overlay applies if the applicability is that all site plan review applications, so things over 1,000 square feet or 10% of the building's footprint, whichever is bigger, things like that, go through the new overlay. It is different. It applies these design standards, and planning commission has taken a lot of time to develop these design standards to something that strikes a balance of reasonable versus overbearing. But that being said, I think if someone's looking to sell their property and they're a co-pud, I think this will make things so much clearer to a future buyer that, okay, I see what I need to do. Whereas right now the co-pud is, I see what I need to do, and it could be three meetings with discretionary approval standards with perhaps a no decision because of the fact that the township cites some discretionary standards. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to clear up here, is just kind of rid ourselves of some of the overregulation and strike a balance between design standards and an improved process that gives the decision makers clear review standards.
I don't know if that clarifies or not, in that still, you're going from something that was optional process to mandatory requirement.
Yeah, but it doesn't say optional in the ordinance. And that's the issue.
Maybe I can add to that a little bit here too, in terms of this. I looked it up. This was done almost 30 years ago when this originally was put in place. There are 2.5 pages worth of architectural design review requirements in here that talk about all kinds of things in terms of site lighting, in terms of orientation of the building and architectural features, complementary colors. And it says, to accomplish this in site plan review, the planning commission shall exercise the following standards and guidelines with respect to the projects. It's not optional. It says that right here, a page and 2 pages worth of architectural guidelines. To my knowledge, I don't think that was ever applied. So I don't know why these standards are in here if they're only applied once in a while or what. I mean, there's a lot of this is eliminated in an effort to clarify what's required. And the best way to do it along a corridor is an overlay district. It's not only here, but it's elsewhere. So.
Okay, but it was required if you applied to rezone as a PUD. You could still develop a project without a PUD. At least that's my understanding. We've had a lot of, so.
It's not clear here in
Okay.
the language.
Clear, maybe the interpretation just leaned on the side of,
Well, it's been applied. It's been here for
Sure.
30 years and it's been applied 4 times. So there must have been some tradition of.
and it's been not applied more than that.
Well, I don't.
So, okay.
So anyway,
Yeah.
you know, if
For
you.
better or worse, that's what I'm trying to clarify. My read is it's going from an optional choice to a mandate. And you're saying it wasn't clear to you that it was an optional choice.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't say that it's clearly optional in this. It is zoned COPUD. It says all land within 500 feet either way of the center line is zoned COPUD.
It says all land.
I'll look it back up.
So
Well, it's right here.
I agree it is not clear. I agree that part's not clear,
Mhm.
but some of the wording sounds optional and I know the interpretation and the usage has been optional, thus making a shift to an overlay, a mandatory overlay, a change in function over what we have been doing.
So,
for the years.
so let me
Maybe
ask,
it's bad, just saying it's a
let
change.
me ask the question, why would anyone want to do this?
Why would anybody want to do
Why
what?
would anyone say, I want to do a COPUD on my property and I want to subject myself to 2 pages worth of architectural design standards when I don't have to?
Maybe they don't want to have a co-ped at all. Maybe they want to just use our commercial district.
But
And
they're already
apply for
zoned
business
commercial
without
or
it.
industrial. Why would they want to do this?
Yeah, so why should they have to do this?
Why should they apply to do it? You're saying it's optional.
They want a more flexibility in standards and guidelines. Just like in residential, a PUD allows you to vary from the standard mandates. The commercial COPUD has been functionally used more in that regard as a opportunity to vary from the mandates in something that was functional but had been approved. And a lot of our businesses have gone in just under the commercial zoning without a rezoning to PUD.
If I were a property owner in this area, I'd be crazy to do the PUD.
Okay, so no PUD, but it looks like we're eliminating the option of just using our commercial zoning
No,
without additional rules and guidelines.
Still maintaining the underlying zoning district.
mhm.
So, yeah, it's still the underlying zoning district. They can do.
It's not still the underlying zoning district. The problem is with the 4 properties that are already zoned COPUD, there's no underlying zoning district. They're just zoned as COPUD.
it actually says that here.
And so I see that as a different problem to resolve.
But we got to, yeah.
Yeah, but the issue is more, this is moving it to a new set of rules that are being applied to a lot of our businesses that were developed without the COPUD, just using our commercial standards in the commercial district.
I'm just curious
Which would
about,
be the majority of our businesses.
the conversation that led somebody to think this was a good option. you know, because you're adding a whole tons of layers of
Right.
additional requirements that.
I don't, it's not appealing. Like, I understand what you're saying to look at it from your perspective, like, but why do it then? If I don't have to do this, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do what I want with my business. So I don't see why why it being optional is even, why we even have it. I guess, well, like Andy sees it too. Why do we have all these pages of requirements when you don't have to do it? So we're trying to clean it up.
Get
We
rid of
don't
both.
need all of that.
Get rid of both. I guess I have no problem with
Yes.
something that you are providing to a business owner as an optional choice for more flexibility,
I don't see how it gives them more flexibility.
but the overlay,
Restrictive.
There is no flexibility in the PUD here, the COPUD, none.
In the existing
Zero.
one.
And I agree with getting rid of the existing COPUD. It's been a nightmare for some of our businesses that have, for whatever reason, had to use it
Why would
to
they?
have some variety. Well, in order to have a size variance or a difference in use, and it has been very difficult for them. I'm not a fan of the current COPUD, don't get me wrong. I'm just looking at this new item is an entirely new creature. And what I'm seeing is that it's mandated on every business. And I don't see very many of our businesses surviving these rules. So I will let
And I
it,
think
somebody
and
else.
just yeah, and I think that's a real genuine sentiment that I think should be discussed by planning commission is the answer to just get rid of both, and is it to have the underlying district just provide the regulation. I do want to recap just our process though, and I think so when we started this COPUD rewrite, we were kind of in a gray area for a little bit, and planning commission really formed a vision in a way of we started with some questions of what do we do about COPUD? Do we just have it be like an incentive based uh, district, an incentive based overlay? Um, and then it kind of formed into something that was just a traditional overlay like I went through in the presentation where it's design based, and we started pretty heavy and it was pretty strict. And we had a lot of standards in there, and then one of them was even a frontage sidewalk, and we had a lot there. And you've really put your heads together and reduced a lot of the requirements, because you said this is quite substantial. This is a lot for somebody. And we've gotten to a point where I think you're now striking a balance with trying to provide a unified design and trying to provide a unified expectation, but without being over regulating. But I do get the sense that if the sentiment that if perhaps you think it's too much altogether, it's something that you could rid yourself of altogether. But that being said, I would think that COPUD absolutely needs to go because of the issues.
Any other questions?
I'm Renee Savage, 9833 Pine Needle Lane. I'm one of the people that own the business in the COPUD. I am Renee's House of Quilting. Mike, first of all, I want to appreciate all of you coming. My husband was on this planning commission for years and finally gave up, so I really have to hand it to him. You know, it's a really long process and it's very difficult, and there's a lot of differing opinions. My concern, and I have been told that I'm grandfathered in, so a lot of this is not going to really affect how I do my present day business. But it is going to affect me if I have to sell my business when I want to retire. So my question is about the foundation landscaping. Why and who does it benefit to put up a 4 or 5 foot berm around my parking lot? Who does it benefit? 72 is one of the busiest highways in northern Michigan. If you're not doing 65 on 72, you're going to get run over, period. They have a hard enough time finding my driveway as it is. And by putting trees up that off the right of way, that also blocks my business from view. Now, I'm a business owner. This is what makes my living. And if my customers can't find me, they have to look for the pink mailbox. I had to do a pink mailbox out at the end of the driveway because they can't find me. So I'd like to know the foundation landscaping and the frontage of the green belt. who does that actually really benefit? Because it doesn't benefit the business owners. And people are traveling so fast on 72, they're not looking at trees anyway. They're coming and going to work and they're looking to get where they've got to get. I understand that we want to keep it pretty, we want to keep it green, but anybody who's been to my shop knows that we always have beautiful flowers out front. We have a gorgeous sign on our property. We have a quilt block that's 8 by 8 that is constantly being maintained. And I just feel that these are inherent, these are a detriment to anybody who has who has property on M72. So thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
I can help try to answer that. I think that's a really good question and a good point in terms of the nuts and bolts of the design standards proposed. Do you want me to take this question?
Sure.
Yep. So I do just want to clarify that in terms of the parking lot screen, there are three options. The berm is one of them, and this is a by these are options. These are three different choices somebody has to screen their front parking lot. You can either do a 3 to 4 foot high wall of masonry or stone. You can either do a 3 foot high hedge of just like boxwood or a juniper or something like that, or you can do the berm. So there are choices, and I do think the one biggest reason why we want to screen the parking lot is to shield the parking lot, any customers parked in the parking lot's lights from glaring into the right of way and affecting drivers. Let's say you're driving down M72 and there's a deer right on the line, right on the shoulder. You might not see that deer if there's a huge not a semi, a huge pickup truck that has lights in that parking lot glaring straight into the right of way, straight into potential drivers on M72. They could hit that deer because they can't see it because of the headlights that are in the parking lot. So that's one of the biggest things is screening the just the extra light pollution, extra light distraction from the parking lot, and that's one of the reasons we create those type of standards. Um, so it's a good question, but I think that's why we landed on that.
But we
that
also,
screen.
in 6.09 Part B, we also talk about the frontage greenbelt.
Yep. And that's a good point. The frontage greenbelt is simply doesn't have to do with the berm. The berm is a parking lot screen
Right.
item. The frontage greenbelt is just trees. Plant trees at a certain um uh um one tree per every linear feet of lot. So if you have a 200-foot lot frontage, you would have to plant 5 trees, and those trees would need to be within 10 feet of the lot width, unless there's a utility there that requires you to prevent them a little bit more setback.
Okay.
We also say that the remaining areas should be either lawn or they should have like a variety of other kinds of native grasses or sedges or flower beds. Just to make a little bit more a little bit more visually appealing design. Yes.
It's on the same subject, but even schools now.
I need you to come up to the mic.
But even schools now are removing the berms and the hedges around parking lots because it only invites people from being attacked in the parking lots at night.
Hmm.
And it's security reasons. And if you want a clear path so that your headlights aren't going into the roadway, why are you planting trees? Because people can't see to get out. 72 is so busy. They have to, sometimes I don't even get to go across the road. I have to go down and go to the right. So trees they're impeding your visibility. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Mike Conlon, 5918 Vinton. Along the lines of the hedges or short block wall, I think in our area, something for the board to consider, when it snows, you already have enough trouble removing snow. If you create a berm or a block wall, you're creating drifting, and it's more difficult to process the snow. So I think you're creating a headache for whatever business is there. And you could also be setting M72 up for more drifting, which we don't need already.
Thank you.
Something to think about.
Hello, Mike Fowler, 8976 M72 Williamsburg Animal Hospital, right there. I share some similar sentiments to what's already been voiced. As far as, any berms or blocking of parking lots, I don't know who drove that stretch this winter, probably all of us. At some point, probably 3 times throughout this winter, you would have seen me on about a 15-foot tall snow pile at the end of our driveway, shoveling it back off because our employees, staff, customers could not see out onto the roadway. That's already a significant issue. It's only going to be worse if we implement a berm or additional requirements along that frontage. I feel the same way about the trees and the rest of the stuff. I just planted some trees. Deb, I don't know if you noticed my tree. I did. I planted some trees for the second time because the first time we developed the property, we planted trees. They all died, unfortunately. Irrigation is extremely expensive. And now we planted additional trees. Hopefully they will survive. I guess we'll see. I'll just continue planting trees every couple of years, I guess, if they don't. My main issue with a lot of the points that are brought up here is just the additional burden onto anyone trying to develop a business. Having just done so over there, I can tell you the additional requirements that we're putting in here between, the siding, the frontage, the landscaping requirements, all of that stuff probably would have cost us an additional $50,000 to $80,000 when we did that property, which we did not have. We were already, that place was done on a budget this thin. And there were some cost cutting measures even at the time that we're paying for currently. We're about to replace some exterior doors on the outside because they're rotting out because we went cheap with residential doors and now they need to be replaced with commercial ones. So, additional burdens piled onto business owners that are trying to make it work, especially small businesses. I think we can all agree we're pro small business, right? We're a small community. We're a rural area. We like to, promote small businesses, and that's who this stuff harms the most. If a big company is coming in, someone with deep pockets, and they can do a big development, sure, it's a line item, absorb it into the cost of the project, move on. No one's going to blink an eye at it. Somebody who's taken out every bit of their life savings to try to sock it into something and make it work, that's who it's going to hit hard. So that's kind of my main issue with it. I understand that we want beautification. I understand we want things to look nice, but we also have to balance that with making it feasible for small business owners to start things up in the community. It just, that's kind of my main 2 cents on this stuff. I guess the other part with the trees and whatnot too is that, as some others have stated, it's already hard enough to kind of see signs. When we did our sign, I made sure we went as big a block letters as we possibly could in black because people are doing 70 miles an hour through there. And you already have requirements as far as how big a sign can be, where it can be placed. And now we're putting additional barriers in front of that. So I just think that some of that stuff screening the roadway, while it may look nice as you fly through that corridor, for those of us that are actually operating businesses there, it's going to present significant hurdles between visibility, snow, and just being able to see our businesses. So yeah, that was kind of my 2 cents. I'm not opposed to, reworking the district, clarifying things, streamlining. I'm all about streamlining things. And I understand there's good intentions behind a lot of this stuff. And I like the idea of things looking nice and things being kept orderly and landscaping looking nice. But there's also, we have to balance that with, what we're putting on to business owners as they try to make things work. Just like I said, having a recent experience there, this stuff might have sunk the ship. It was, and unfortunately we got through and we made it and things are going well over there. But at that time, it's like piling on a few more things like this would just have been, that would have seemed insurmountable. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got time for one last comment. Go ahead.
I got a squeaky voice, so bear with me. The screening was one of the issues I came up with. Again, I live in Acme, but I have property on 72.
What's your name?
Jim Maitland.
Oh,
I've been with you in front of you several times. Thank you. What if I want to put a parking lot behind my building, I can still see it from the road, and you're still going to make me put a 3-foot wall or a berm? You don't have that clarified very well because you can see quite far into a piece of property. I did send out a letter. Did everybody get that?
yep.
Architectural standard 6.07A. It says wood siding, which is a lot of people use that now, but a lot of people are going to composite planking, which is very similar to wood siding. You can't tell the difference from it lasts forever. So I think maybe you should consider putting some of those options in when you start, rather than having to modify it or change it in the future. Paint color. You mentioned the seasons, 4 seasons, summer, winter, fall. I Googled summer color and it came out yellow. So is that really, so you're allowing yellow, but you want it natural colors? I don't, I think maybe that area should be rethought. You require no more than 3 colors for a building, but yet on a 100-foot long building, you want it to look differently and look like smaller buildings, but you only allow 3 colors. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Does anyone have any answers to any of these questions?
No, I think you're bringing up some useful points that we
Okay.
can take into consideration.
Site plan review, you asked for, there's 25 mandatory things to put on a site plan. I said site plans are good, you have to have them. I was just looking at one of them, which number H requires soil location type if you have already determined it is not a wetland, using US soil maps. Well, I bet no one here has ever looked at a soil map. They're very difficult. And if you've already determined that there's no wetland on site, why do you care what kind of soils are on that site? Why would that be mandatory? I think you should look at some of those 25 items and make some of them maybe required. Once you go, and I think it's a good idea to have this pre-application conference. And those people then should be able to say, well, you don't need the soil survey. We don't care whether you got clay or black dirt or any of the 500 different kinds of soil types that may be listed. It just clutters up the site plan. There's more than just one, but that's just an example. I think what you're doing is good, but you've really got to look at it and make sure it's right the first time. Because once you do it, it's very difficult to change. So thank you.
And everybody here has received a copy of your list.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Do we have any more? Okay.
Brian Cradaville, 5858 Moore Road, Hudson Incorporated. Just need clarification on the 4 vehicle rule. Was that saying 4 vehicles of any kind? I mean, we operate a John Deere dealership. We have a lot of stuff that puts out there. We have a lot of, the biggest thing for us, honestly, is we need to be able to have that show on the road. But also, if somebody comes in for service, we now can't even service them if it's 4, right? If you allow 4 pieces on the property, then we can't even have people come in for service.
I believe it's just in the front, at the frontage, right?
Yeah,
That's where we're
that's
limiting it.
correct. Yeah, the current COPUD ordinance restricts to 4 as just like showcase display, but you can have other, all of your other vehicles just screened behind landscaping or behind a wall or behind a fenced storage area or whatever it is. And we would like to keep that standard where you can freely display 4, and they can be any vehicle in my understanding of the ordinance. They can be an equipment, they can be a passenger car, or whatever the vehicle type is by the use of the property. And then you just need to screen all your others.
We have 4 out of the trees, they asked for flash.
Yeah, I mean,
Can you
You have a conditional waiver on this property of 150.
Can you step to the podium, please?
Deb,
Thanks.
Your property has 150 items that you're allowed to have on the property. Now, is that fair compared to what Ginnep has on their property? Ginnep has a COPUD, you do not. You're an industrial. Ginnep is, if you guys would like to come in and amend your site plan conditions, which I've asked multiple people at Hudson, and I know you guys have changed a lot of people. zoning administrator here. If you guys would come in and amend your site plan conditions with this planning commission, you may be able to get the more vehicles or, I mean, what you're trying to sell. And they don't want 4 vehicles out there. They want to be able to put 300 or 400 on that property. They've got a lot of it covered in trees and it's been discussed, but you haven't presented anything. So the 4 vehicle rule doesn't really apply to your industrial property because of where you're located. Because you do have conditions on that site plan.
But if it became a co-pod, it would.
If it became the M72 overlay,
Who
right?
knows?
What's that?
Who knows?
knows?
If so are you saying if we amend the ordinance to the M72 overlay,
I'm
then-
sorry, can we withhold the conversation in the building? It's hard to hear. Go ahead, Andy.
yeah, is the question how many vehicles are allowed to be stored right now as the COPUD, or how many vehicles would be allowed to be stored if this gets amended to the M72 overlay?
Are you asking about the proposed?
We're just asking in general because we're limited now. We're going to be more limited in the future. So I guess we need
Yeah.
to know what that
I
looks
think-
like because we sell equipment and if it's behind a berm, it doesn't sell.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So I think right now, so the way we wrote them 72 overlay, so the way the packet shows it, there isn't a limit of outdoor display, but after looking at everything, I do suggest there be the same limit as the current COPUD, which limits them to 4. And that's the current rule in the current ordinance. And I would just suggest that the M72 overlay be rewritten to limit to 4. You can have more in the back or more screened behind a wall and landscaping. It's just the front and center 4 is the restriction.
So on the
But
screen,
yeah, I think your feedback's great. I think that's the kind of stuff planning commission needs to hear as the ordinance be developed.
so as far as the screening of parking lots, what's the definition of that? Because we have parking lots on the side and the front of our building. So do we have to go all the way down our hill, past the building, past the parking lot, or like what parameters are going to be set there? Do we have to have just a 100-foot wall, or do we have to have a 400-foot wall?
Well, so I think the letter of the law would be that if you're parking cars in a parking lot, you would need the 3 to 4 foot high stone or masonry wall, or the 3 to 4 foot high hedge, or the berm that runs whatever the distance of your parking lot is.
But does it turn the corner and go along the side as well? It's just in the front, right?
I mean, you can see our parking lot from a lot of the road, so that's what I'm asking,
Yeah.
because every time you get past a row of trees, that's 150, 160 feet from where we even start putting equipment, 500 feet from the parking lot, you can still see the parking lot. So, I mean, that's what we need to know, I guess, because we already did the trees to limit that. That kind of limited us, and then now we're gonna put up a berm, so.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for bringing that up. We're going to be discussing this further during the regular meeting, which started 10 minutes ago. But I let us go over since we started late. Is there anything else that you'd like to say? This is going to go to, if we decide it would go to continue with this, it would go to a public hearing. You'd have another opportunity to speak there as well. And you're always welcome to come to one of our meetings, whether it's a public hearing or not, and speak during the public comment periods at the beginning and end of the meeting. Okay, I hope this was helpful. And thank you very much for coming.
Just have one other quick point that I forgot to say when I was up here. The siding was the one other thing that I wanted to bring up. When I came up with, it would have cost us an additional $50,000 to $70,000 or the big portion of that was siding as well. So just in addition to the greenway stuff, we ended up we took the old siding that was on that building in very terrible shape and then went with steel siding just purely for economical reasons. It stays nice looking for a long time. A lot of the buildings along this corridor are already steel sided. So I know it says in there that steel siding could potentially be considered under site plan and would have to be approved. That was just the additional point that I forgot when I was up here, was that a lot of times that just makes the most economical sense, stays nice looking for a long time. And that's where a lot of that additional cost would have been incurred had we been forced to go with a more premium wood product or masonry brick or whatever else was proposed.
Thank you. I have a motion to close the public comment. Oh,
Was there any correspondence?
oh, we had correspondence from Mr. Maitland, which he referred to when he was speaking, and everybody in the PC has received a copy of that. Okay, motion to close the public comment, and then a motion.
I
to
motion
adjourn.
to close public
No?
comment. No, I don't.
Oh, because it's not a hearing. Sorry. Okay, then Michael, would you like to make a motion to close the meeting?
Adjourn the meeting. Adjourn the meeting.
I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second, Merchant.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you again for coming. So we're going to begin our regular meeting now.
Special meeting closes at 7:12.
Oh, 7:12. Thank you very much.
I mean, I need just a moment to stop and start.
Okay.
We're still streaming live on YouTube and you're still unmuted, just a reminder.
Regular meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Right. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order. It is 7:13 PM. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Again.
It is a separate meeting, so. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I believe everybody's microphones are working. Roll call.
Stratton,
Here.
Merchant,
Here.
Peltonen here, Trumbull,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Rebat,
Here.
Milnick.
Here.
Okay. Set or adjust the meeting agenda on item 11C. It should say amendment to Article 6, COPUD PC discussion. I forgot the CO. Does anybody have any other adjustments? Item 11C. It should read the Article 6, COPUD. Yeah.
Yes, I noticed something on number 13. Next meeting, 8/5/26. You may want to add Wednesday and 7 PM in Township Hall to that. Because it doesn't
We-
have a time.
Right. No, we do typically just do the date. That's what I've done in the past. If we can add that. that's
Yeah,
no
yeah, that's
problem.
the minutes.
Right now it's set for 7 PM unless we decide to change that. You can add it to the minutes, it's
Thank
fine.
you.
Yep.
I used to do.
All right. Motion to accept the amended agenda.
I move to accept the amended agenda, Peltonen.
Second,
Second, Trumbull.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Declaration of conflict of interest pertinent to agenda items. Nope.
None.
Okay. We'll now have public comment in-house. Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the PC. Public comments shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules and procedures. There are 2 opportunities for public comment, now and at the end of the meeting. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from the lectern and state his or her name and address. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's questions. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. In order to avoid unscheduled debates, the PC generally will not comment or respond to public comment. Silence or non-response from the PC should not be interpreted as disinterest. Do we have anyone that would like to make public comment?
Jim Maitland again. You got my card? You want another one? Okay. I'm sticking my neck out here, but listening to your planner, several times you said we. We decided that you should have a 3-foot berm. You're the ones that decide. He's not part of the we. You're the we. He's the guy you're paying to help. So that just sort of bugged me. So, and I think you understand that too.
Kim Mangus again, Brown Bear Lane. Last week, there was a group of business owners that got together. And I don't know if you guys heard about it. From all different walks and areas within Whitewater Township. I can say, relevant to that, I personally have been in every business, inside of every business on M72 within the last 30 days. I understand, I don't own commercial property. I own adjacent property, but I don't own commercial property. I understand the concerns in many regards of property owners, especially commercial property owners. Whitewater Township has a very well-deserved reputation of not being a hospitable place for business. And as a not property owner, I want to share some of the things that I learned in my afternoon visiting with property owners, things that they don't feel comfortable saying out loud on behalf of themselves. So corporately, I want to give you a little bit of feedback. As far as the proposed overlay district, the big things were a wall to hide their parking lot will kill my business. The reduction in allowable signage is already a problem at its current standard. That will kill my business. The landscaping requirements is a giant waste of money. I make it look nice. Some businesses need to look nicer than other businesses, and they saw it as unnecessary and frivolous. And the big thing, along with the parking wall, was display area. We are a rural township. With farming comes tractors. With tractors comes tractor dealerships. The type of feedback I was getting was, we're looking for property. We will be forced to move. I will not be able to expand my business. Or on vacant property, this will destroy any opportunity I have to have new businesses come into the township. That is not what we want. That's not what I want. I can't speak for the corporate we. That's not what I want to see in Whitewater Township. I don't want to see Gron. I don't want to see massive development, but I don't want to see us running out the few small businesses that we have. I absolutely love, some people hate Dollar General. I love the fact that I actually in a pinch can grab a stick of butter or a gallon of milk. Might not be my first choice, but when I really need it, I'm still going to swing in there. I would like, the current COPUD is no good. I'd like to see it changed, but I think if we do an overlay, it needs to be very minimal and not have the type of restrictions that we're seeing here. Additionally, I did want to bring one other thing to your attention. On the map, you have 4 COPUDs. I don't know where 3 of the 4 came from because they weren't copepods when they were developed. Heights Machinery was the only coped we had. They were special uses. And I'm really concerned, and maybe a deep dive into the records is in order, because Ginnup's and Renee's House of Quilting, not copeds. So I just want to throw that out there. I think we have an error on our map and an error in calculation. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
So again, it's Renee Savage, Piney Lane, and M72. So it never even occurred to me about this snow. We have a huge parking lot, and we already have to use a snow blower because of the drifts from the snow. So if we have to berm that or we have to hide that, it's not going to happen. The other thing too is I don't feel that, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, I don't feel that the commercial district is being properly represented. Nobody has come to me and asked me what we need for commercial zoning. No one said, is there something that the zoning can do to benefit the commercial? It is a commercial district. We are there. We're going to stay there. It's not going away. When we opened 23 years ago, I'll tell you, Carol was with us. We had to fight tooth and nail to get that farmhouse turned in to a retail business when it was zoned both commercial and residential. We had to fight for every single permit, hundreds and thousands of dollars to get open. And then at the very end, they still didn't want to give me my permit because they couldn't see the grass growing in January. And when I said to him, I'll go bankrupt if I can't open until spring. And he said, that's not my problem. It is our problem. We are here. We are your neighbors. We are bringing people to the area, and people say, oh, I don't want you to bring people to the area. Well, too bad. That's what this Northern Michigan area is about. The cherry farmers want to sell their cherries. You know, Hubbles want to sell their fruit stands. We want to sell our fabric, but you can't tie our hands to do this. So I'm just saying, the idea of I can see putting a few trees up, I can understand that, but not berming or fencing off our parking lots. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pearl Hagen, 8990 Oldham 72. I'm here representing Acme Christian Thrift Store and Food Pantry at 8925 M72. When we purchased that property back in 2012, we purchased the property and we had to remodel it. The driveway that was put in, the driveway goes in and then you have to turn a corner to get to the parking lot. Our parking lot, the cars faced east and west. They do not, the headlights do not go toward the highway, and 72 is dangerous. I attended that meeting the other night and I walked across 72, and the people who saw me walk across the road said, Carol, you are crazy. I said, I know, but you know. And I have to tell you, I was a township official for many years. I was the township clerk for 12 years. I was on the planning commission. Rob remembers that. And when that copud was put in 30 years ago, the chairman of the planning commission had attended a conference out east. And he came back all excited and said, this is what we have to do for the M72 corridor. And I don't think any of us who were here 30 years ago really understood that. And just to add one other thing, my father, whose all of that property was, where the Shell Station, Ginnup's, the animal hospital, Renee's, Axe, and all of that property was a dairy farm. Then 72 went through. He was told he could drive 35 cattle across the highway twice a day. That's how things have changed. I think that screening the parking lot is going to be very dangerous. For us, we had to put in a drainage ditch. The snow gets pushed into the drainage ditch. If we had to have it a wall, a berm, whatever there, we wouldn't be able to get rid of our snow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So I don't need to have a motion to close public comment. All right, we will move on to approval of minutes from the June 3rd meeting. Did anybody have any changes?
Wasn't
I
there.
did.
Yeah. No? Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written. Can I have a second?
Second, Trimble.
All in favor?
I agree.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence, we had the letter from we had the letter from Mr. Maitland. We had a letter written that was regarding the Articles 6 amendment. We had a letter from Deborah Lytle regarding the short-term rental survey. And there was an anonymous comment made to Kelly Sullivan, the person that you call if you haven't gotten your postcard or don't have your code, that about a short-term rental on Crisp Road. And that's it for correspondence.
Spelling on Deborah Lytle's last name.
Lytle. Okay, we'll move on to reports. Zoning administrator.
You have my zoning report there. We had 8 new permits during the month of June. I've got 1 land division that's pending. 3 closed complaints in the township. The Heidish jury trial has been scheduled. I know it's on here as of 6/17. When I was doing the report, it was not set yet. It is now September 29th at 1 p.m. We did update the land use permit application, removed a few things. I don't know if you have any other questions about my report, but I do have a couple of comments as well. Any questions about my report itself? One, I personally am the one who's looking at this COPUD district with companies that come in, and I would like to suggest eliminating it entirely. Take those 4 properties, make them either commercial or industrial. Heights makes, fits with the industrial district, and the other 3 fit with a commercial district. I don't disagree with anything that they're saying. I've heard the same things from the people in the community. And I don't know why we want to make things more cumbersome. I mean, you have conditions you can put on a property if somebody comes in and does a site plan review. I mean, I do know that they can come in to me and ask for a 1,200 square foot building, 30 by 40, which is average. Does not require a site plan review, that the township zoning administrator can actually approve that. And I think there may be a couple of those in this commercial district as well. And I would hate for them to have to go through a process of, COPUD and doing some of these things. I mean, the gentleman who bought Mr. C's has commented he doesn't want any more trees out in front of his business. He wants people on 72 to be able to see his business. He wants them to know there's a business out there. He would love a lit sign that has all kinds of movement on it, but that's not allowed in our ordinance either. And if you really dig into the COPUD, it's not cross-referenced in our landscaping. It's not cross-referenced in the lighting. It's not cross-referenced on any of the other ordinances where it should be cross-referenced if it was a true district in the township, the way it's kind of perceived. So that's just one more opinion. I think it would keep things simple, and I don't think we need to overly burden anyone that's coming or moving to this community, but that's just one opinion. Any questions?
Thanks, Deb. PC Chair, I'm gonna give my report at let's see, 11E unfinished business about the short-term rental survey. So we'll move on to the Township Board Representative.
There's really three things to talk about. One is the civil infraction issue, which we'll get to later, so I'll hold off on addressing that topic. But I wanted to mention that the Township Board is in the process of working on the website. I know that's been a common complaint of people, that it's not easily, information is not as easily accessed as there. If you have some thoughts on that, the township clerk is interested in hearing feedback on what could be done to make that website more user-friendly and getting the information that you want more easily accessible. So that's an ongoing process right now, but it's easy to say you don't like it. But it's hard to say what to do to fix it. But I'd also mention at a recent board meeting, I did a short presentation on the land division ordinance in connection with the master plan. There is some connections there that need to be discussed. Currently, a topic is with the township board, but it obviously connects to the master plan, and we were talking about the need to understand the desire to promote cluster residential design and discourage land divisions. And there are some choices to be made, and that's a whole nother topic that we need to address at some point. But I wanted to just make sure that's on the radar screen. You can go back to the town board and hear it was just about 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes that we discussed that. That's it.
Great, thank you. Our zoning board of appeals representative.
Yep, so we met on June 25th, last Thursday. We had a public comment regarding really PC. It didn't have anything to do with zoning. It was Mrs. Lytle or Little, and just basically reviewing what she had sent us. The main reason for that meeting was to review the minutes and approve them for the meeting prior to that with the Olson's denial. Let's see. We reviewed that rewording of Article 20, and we got to a point where we wanted to step back, and we're going to meet again with another variance request this month.
Thank you. Rod, the ROWG report.
Yeah, I guess the last time we had an update was the shared PC and board of directors meeting, and I had mentioned that the group is ready to move forward, and since that time we have built a 6-month master plan for the project. It's basically each of the major capital improvement focus points, probably the 3 largest right now is the fire station and all of its equipment and all of its land assets. Then we move on from that point to Parks and Rec, and then we move into the township building and facilities, and we finish up with cemetery and other lots that are unimproved at this point. So we think we can do that by the end of the year. I'd say that the team is pretty excited about it, because ultimately we will have, at least from my recollection, the first complete list of all of the assets that this township owns, which is pretty important tool. Number one, we know where the assets exist. We know their value, we know their condition, and we know depreciation, and we have information for insurance purposes. So there's a lot of positive results once we complete this asset inventory, and then it becomes the stewards. I don't know who they will be of the system that's built, but it sounds like the board of directors are very excited to get that. We had a special meeting with the fire department and the fire chief, and we did a walkthrough, and all I can say is he's done a remarkable job of organizing and making strategic moves in the fire department that I don't think our community quite appreciates. You know, there's some visibility issues. I'll say that I think they have a hell of a story to tell on things that have been changing. So I'd encourage that, somehow that story makes its way out to the public. The second thing is they are 100% packed into a very small facility. They're using temporary storage trailers to conduct fire training on their property. So there's a lot going on there, and they have 2 brand new fire engines. They have a brand new ORV. They have a boat for rescues in the township. So they are well stocked and well staffed, but it's a good time to collect all that information. The transition of a lot of old equipment has moved out. We still have fire hoses that are 30 to 50 years old. That's something they would like to replace, make sure that that's on their radar. So that's all positive, and they are creating their information in Excel spreadsheet format, and we will take that data and transmit it into the Whitewater Township database. We have a system in the township that manages all of the payroll, the accounts payable, accounts receivable, and it includes assets. So there is one warehouse or data storage point in this township, which is really a good change in my estimation. That is recent, it's a decision. Now this data is going to be available and it will be managed. So that's great news. Number 2 is we move on from the fire barn, then to Parks and Rec. And I just found out that the fire chief is now the manager of Parks and Rec. So with him and his due diligence, I can see a lot of work that has to be done for him to pull all of their assets together so we can do that inventory and validation. So it will be a busy summer for our team, and we'll probably end up breaking into teams of 2 and working through this. And most everybody will be Excel experts by the end of this summer. So it's a project that could have been done a long time ago, and I'm glad it's happening.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you have all the members of your ROWG? Do you have all the members of your ROWG that you need? Were you short? You were down one person.
Well, I think at this point we have enough to carry this project forward. We did have a resignation. But if we need to bring in another person, we'll raise that flag then. But yes, we would love your help.
That there might be other residents that have been longtime residents that have a vision for the township that could contribute as well. So, but yes.
Well, I guess I will add the last point. There are township-owned properties that I did not exist. They do not have buildings on them, but some of them are really strategic properties. And I think that is to our benefit as we think about, 5-year planning and, what happens. The fire barn in particular, they would like to have another bay. The captain has a 5-year plan, and I know he has it in there. And, maybe for 10 years, we need to look at a new location for a fire barn. But those are all things yet to come. But with due diligence, I think we'll find that some of the property that's been sitting there unused may be, a really strategic move that was done years ago.
Okay. All right, unfinished business. The first item is the amendment to the motion ZA 2026-03, repeal and replacement of Article 7, planned unit development, amendments to Article 8, condo development, amendments to Article 12, site plan review, amendments to Article 13, special land uses, except Article 13.17, amendments to Article 19, and which is administration, and amendments to Article 2 definitions. And the reason that this is being the motion is being amended is because we passed it at the June 3rd meeting, but the amendment to Article 5 and 13.17C of the zoning ordinance was part of the packet, was discussed at the public hearing on May 6th, but was omitted from the public notice. So we're going to be voting on that again, on an amendment.
Could we
motion.
expand on that point just a little bit though, and maybe have Andy contribute some thoughts to
Yeah,
that as
yeah,
well?
I'm sure
Because
he-
it was some
good fit.
confusion about whether or not that was it's absolutely necessary to do that for one thing. And I think Andy had pointed out some comments in his memo to us or to you about that.
Mhm.
I assume Andy's still available.
Yep, I'm here if you want me to elaborate. So, I think, so for one, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act is a little unclear on, the amount of discretion or the amount of revisions planning commission can make after the public hearing and after public noticing. It doesn't really say you have limits on how much you can amend or how much you can revise. So I'm really unfamiliar with the extent that you can revise after a public notice. But I think the decision was just to be cautious in this instance. What we thought was mostly going to be a reorganization, and I think it was at at the request of the public as well, and properly discussed by the planning commission in a public meeting. It was pretty clear what we were doing. We just decided, okay, after not specifying Article 5 at all in any of the notices, let's just take some time here and not push something in a direction that we think is pushing the boundary too far.
I would
So
just add that
using an abundance of caution.
So I would just add too that a zoning ordinance is not a series of independent ordinances. It is one document. It is anyone in the past, it seems as though the planning commission dealt with articles, and largely it's divided into articles for a reason, but it's kind of like chapters in a book, it's one book, but there's chapters, and just because you don't mention that you're amending a chapter doesn't mean that you're necessarily creating a problem. When I wasn't at the last meeting, but then afterwards, after having some discussion about that, I also realized that just simply moving that section over created some problems. And I think Andy's addressed that as well, that just simply moving the special use standards to chapter 5 or article 5 could create confusion about whether those special use standards that are in Article 13 would apply to permitted uses and special uses. So Andy is offering some language to clear that up, which to me is a bigger issue, that if we're going to move it, we should move it correctly instead of just dropping it over there and leaving some potential problems down the road. So I think Andy has that in his material that is in the packet.
And we're going to discuss that further in the next item.
Okay.
So do you want to go through the findings of fact?
The planning commission adopted the findings of fact, but there is one edit to it because it, as you mentioned, it mentions Article 5 and now
Mhm.
Article 5 would be eliminated from that, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was A point C in the original findings of fact from the last meeting where we had Article 5. So that's been removed. Okay. So do you want to do
I'm
the?
just going to mention also the town board this has not gone to the town board the way the calendar has fallen. The town board has not had a meeting since an evening meeting since the last planning commission meeting. So the packet for the township board is due tomorrow. So we can get this into the agenda for the town board next Thursday for their evening meeting. So if the planning commission is inclined to do so, we can still get this to the town board without losing a month by dropping that section that we talked about. So that makes sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we need any discussion? I know those of us that were at the meeting discussed the amendment already to the bundled. I don't know if Randy, if you or Rod have any questions.
Could you clarify the pages that are included? Because I have notes and I don't know if my notes are part of this or another text amendment, Article 2 and site plan review.
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
We are voting on what
Bundle, so,
bundle? What's it-
right, bundle 1, without Article 5 or Article 13.17 or section
So we're doing
13.17.
7, 8, 12, 13, 19, 2 and 5.
No,
Not-
not doing 5.
We're not doing 2 and 5. Okay, that's.
No, we are doing 2. We are not doing 5.
Okay. And this is just in Article 2 definitions. It's on page 39 or number 4 of the proposed text amendment. I just had a question about the environmentally sensitive area at the top of the page. They had the flood hazard area, the areas indicated within the limits of the 100-year flood boundary, which are termed special flood hazard areas. Is that related in any way to the ag district, the setbacks for the ag, in the ag on the map? I just had that question.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
What did you say?
I said, I don't believe so, that they're related to that. The setbacks in the ag district, the floodplain is a regulatory area
Separate
set up by
issue.
FEMA that the county administers the floodplain regulations.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess a question regarding that, does the floodplain show where it exists in all of the township maps? Or is that not an overlay or a highlight of our maps?
The county administers the floodplain regulations for Grand Traverse County, and they have maps that are provided by FEMA that identify the 100-year floodplain, which is a geographic boundary of areas that are going to flood,
Right.
could flood within once every 100 years.
Yeah. Is that important for us to have that in our maps?
In our maps, well,
Right, by district, you know, I think of R1 as example. R1 is, a lot of it is waterfront property. And almost everything I've seen on waterfront is near being in that floodplain.
And so again, it's part of the county building code that requires, if you're in that flood elevation area, that you elevate your structure above the flood elevation or otherwise flood-proof your property.
Okay.
So there in the master plan, there's an example of the floodplain. It was just updated actually for our township. So we have that,
Okay.
which is mapped, but it actually corresponds to an elevation rather than a boundary of the elevation corresponds to a boundary because the land slopes, but it's a given elevation above sea level. I used to work with a guy that modeled floodplain regulations and I administered them before, so
Yeah, I guess as long as it comes up in a site review, I just want to make sure that it ties to some element of visibility in review.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Are we ready to have a motion?
I think we are.
Randy, do you want to do that?
I can if you want. Right, I make a motion that based on the specific findings and conclusions discussed pursuant to Article 21 of the Whitewater Township zoning ordinance, the Whitewater Township Planning Commission recommends that the board repeal and replace Article 7, planned unit development for the purpose of master plan alignment, procedural updates, density allowances, and other minor changes pertaining to clarity and readability. Amend Article 8, condominium development regulations provided for a residential cluster option to encourage open space preservation, update requirements, including those for landscaping and other minor changes pertaining to clarity and readability. Amend Article 12, site plan review to improve process, clarify approval, validity details, and for other minor changes pertaining to the clarity and readability. Amend Article 13, special land uses to delete redundant language, clarify approval and validity details, and for other minor changes pertaining to formatting, clarity, and readability. Amend Article 19, administration to provide clarification on land use permit process and other minor changes pertaining to clarity and readability. And finally, amend Article 2, definitions to accompany the preceding amendments above. That's identical to what was in your memo, I believe, in the packet before.
With the exception of the removal of Article 5.
Correct.
Okay.
And updating our findings and conclusions to eliminate was not adopted. So we have some of that, but we're not doing that anymore. We're just not giving it a number until the township board approves it. But there is a system to actually go through and identify it. And then also in the ordinance itself, there's a place in the very beginning to list what amendments are reflected in the document so that when you read it, you know that you have the most up-to-date version.
Okay, if we take this document that we're agreeing to send to the board now, you made the comment that it may take months to come back. Is there a sign-off procedure within the board of directors to say that it has been received, it has been signed off, so we can, historically find where
Yes.
these things are?
Yes. Yes. So the process includes the clerk publishing it, publishing a summary of that having been done after a certain period of days and so forth.
Thank you.
Okay, we still have a motion on the table. We'll do a roll call vote.
Yes. Merchant,
Yes.
Altonen, yes. Trumbull,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Reban,
Yes.
Melnick,
Yes.
Stratton.
Yes. The motion passes. Okay. So Andy, are you back? No, Andy?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry,
Okay,
I muted
okay.
myself.
All right, so we're moving on to the amendment to 13.17 and Article 5. And you were going to give us an intro or
Yep.
give us a background on that.
Yep. So after kind of the reorganization idea, and I already kind of introduced, what we did here. You had already looked at this twice, this idea twice now, but now we are visiting it again, and this time that gave us the opportunity, as Mr. Milnick said, we had the opportunity to just clarify that these proposed supplemental use specific standards in Articles 5.09 to 5.09 plus 5.13 through 5.15, sorry, are applicable to all uses, whether they're permitted by right and special land uses.
Andy,
So
I'm
that
sorry,
was-
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. It's page 51
Yep.
of the packet.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, sorry.
And I covered that in the memo as well. So on that first page, I said we introduce a introductory lead-in statement to each of the sections that clarify that these standards are applied to all such uses, whether permitted by right or by special land use. There was also a line in the campgrounds that just said permanent cabins. It didn't say anything. It just said permanent cabins, so I deleted that because I don't know what that was supposed to say. The home occupation detail for annual permits for administrative review, you discussed that a long time ago, and we've suggested deleting that as well.
Because that's not been done, correct?
Correct. So I think the memo covers everything that this draft revises.
And that would be burdensome to a home occupation owner to have to provide that as well as to the zoning administrator to go get an annual review of their activities.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in zoning language before.
There's probably a lot of things you haven't seen before.
The only question I had was 5.09 B1. It says at no time shall the number of vehicles on site impose a negative impact on adjacent uses. I wasn't sure, do we really want the word properties there? Or is uses the correct term? I don't know if I'm misinterpreting.
Can you repeat the section number or the
It's
page?
5.5. It's page 3 of your memo, 5.09, home occupations B1. And I'm just questioning the word, uses.
Yeah, I mean that's a good comment. If you think that properties would be a little bit more clear because there's kind of a distinction on a property line or lot line. Like that could indeed be a small little revision.
Okay.
I would suggest I would just um to, I guess no. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but I would discuss we not revise a ton of text within the text right now because we're going to actually revisit that later in a bundle.
Oh,
But
that's right. So,
just correcting typos, I think is something we can certainly do right now. And I would think
Yeah.
that is more of a typo revision than a policy changing revision, if that makes sense.
yeah, I'm sorry, that's my mistake. I forgot that this is all existing verbiage that's just being shifted. So we can take care of that when we review Article 5.
But I just if you want to draw a line between certain verbiage and certain typos, we can. So if that's something you feel strongly about, certainly go ahead and do that. I just wanted to remind everyone of the fact that we'd be revisiting this later.
Mhm. I'm fine with revisiting it later, unless anybody else has an issue.
I agree. It's just, it's
When
in one of our upcoming
when it's in
bundles.
our bundle. Okay, so our next, if anybody has any questions for Andy, let's go through them now. Our next move would be to make a motion for a public hearing on this. The amendment to Article 5. And then we're removing 13.17. And so in your packet, there is the existing zoning ordinance for Article 5, and then also the page of Article 13 that has 13.17 on it.
Also doing 5.14 sexually oriented businesses.
Yep, that's part of this.
That's part of this.
Well, it's getting moved into Article 5.
And then that's when we can discuss it. Okay.
So right now, we're just trying to get the special uses into the right place in the zoning ordinance, and then we will revisit it with in its bundle and work on the wording. I know there's questions about the bed and breakfasts and other things. Do we want to have some discussion? Do we think we're ready to move this to public hearing?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Let's see. Then I'll read the motion. I move that the PC schedule a public hearing for August 5th, on proposed text amendments related to relocation of use specific standards from Article 13.17 to Article 5 of the zoning ordinance, and to make minor, modifications to correct typos, address home occupations, and to provide explanatory text with respect to requirements for permitted by right and special uses. May I have a second?
I second Merchant.
And we'll do a roll call vote.
Pelton, yes. Trumbull.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Rebant.
Yes.
Melnick.
Yes.
Stratton.
Yes,
Yes.
the motion passes. Okay, so our next item is amendment to Article 6, the COPUD. And this is a PC discussion again. Andy's going to give us an intro.
Page 78.
Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, very happy to just cover the quick text. We did have the nice little work session. I think everybody who spoke has very good comments, very good reason to be commenting, and we appreciate the feedback because it does help draft text in the end. I do want to say that it is an effort. I'm just the advisor in a way. So just when I say the word we, maybe I kind of conflate it to be kind of the team effort that the group you, the planning commission as well as myself are giving, a draft text. But you don't have to use my advice, but my advice certainly I want to just look out for the best interest in the township's planning and zoning processes in the end. I do also just want to quickly cover, so I don't need to go through the PowerPoint again because that was for the work session primarily, but I just want to quickly cover my memo as well as the small little changes I am suggesting in my memo. So that being said, uh, sorry, I've got a million tabs open right now because I have all of our stuff here. Yeah, so I covered it in the work session presentation, but I think that the couple small details I want the planning commission to think about, along with the feedback that you got from the public. But in my memo, I discussed policy impacts of proposed M72 overlay. That's on the second page of my M72 overlay memo. And I would like the planning commission to consider the applicability of the M72 overlay. I suggest changing that to a sentence that says within this corridor overlay, only development projects requiring site plan review shall employ the applicable provisions of this article described in section 6.05 through 610 below. That way, the changes of use or small expansions that Ms. Graber can review as the zoning administrator, such as the 1,000 square foot addition or a 10% addition of the building, whichever is less, actually won't prompt the overlay standards in the overlay review. I think that fits with everyone's comments tonight as well. I think it just reduces the burden and the red tape and overregulation concerns that people have for the small stuff. So if I am proposing small changes, I don't need to go through the whole M72 overlay. My second point in that list brings up the outdoor display limits concern again. And that is that the current COPUD limits the outdoor display to 4 vehicles or pieces of equipment. The draft in front of you of the amendment does not, but I actually propose bring that back in because I think that's kind of to my understanding, that might have been a desire of the planning commissions that was just omitted. So very happy to hear what you have to say about that. I do just again encourage you to consider everyone's feedback tonight because I think a lot of it was sensible and reasonable. I do just think that there to just end on the point that I think the reason we're doing this is to clean up the COPUD, end the ambiguity, end the uncertainty, and put together some more tangible standards. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
In the proposed section 6.03 in your memo, do we want to make that 1,200 square feet so it jives with the other changes that we made to this? Was it the site development?
Yeah, so the 1,200 square foot is actually only for accessory structures. That's the threshold that Ms. Graber referred to, I think, earlier in this meeting. There's a 1,200 square foot requirement that we put in the proposed changes to Article 12, where any accessory structure of 1,200 square foot or less can have zoning administrator review. So that would not prompt M72 overlay requirements. But anything requiring full site plan review through planning commission would require M72 overlay requirements as written. Did that help explain that?
No, I understand. I'm just thinking, if we use the same number, is it tidier?
Oh,
That's all.
yeah, that's a good question. And it gives a little bit more leeway, a little bit more just leniency on the private property.
Okay. All right. Questions for Andy or discussion? Do you want to go around the table?
if we are discussing, the 6.0 section,
Mhm.
when I was reading the text, I noticed that there like are minor typos, and if you can just make them consistent, like 604, procedure review and approval, you have a colon at the end of that title, and then on some of the other ones, you have like Article 2 dash definitions, and on some you have a different punctuation. And just, if you just go through them and kind of make it consistent, then it would just look better as a document. I did have a question about the word mode, transportation mode. I guess under 6.08 access management, it's site access, circulation, and at the last of the sentence, it's conflict between travel modes. I'm not sure what you meant. To reduce the potential for congestion and conflict between travel modes. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that modes is the question. What does modes mean?
Yes, I just don't know.
Yep. Yep. So modes generally means just the different types of transportation methods people use to get from point A to point B. It could mean bike. It could mean vehicle. It could mean walking. It could mean transit or bus. I don't know if the bus does the Traverse City bus service Whitewater Township. I'm unsure of that. But it could just mean various ways people get from point A to point B. Sorry, that we can probably just clarify that in a more regular person term than a planner term. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I did have a question. I just don't know, what is a street line? It was used in the text of one of the articles, like 10 feet back from the street line or 15 feet. I don't know
Street
what a street.
line. Let me just scroll to where we noted that.
I'm not sure.
Is that in that site management, the access management section?
I am uncertain right now because I have a lot of pages here that I've been looking at and notes on. I just want to keep in the current section though, to move forward. So we'll just keep going and someone else can tell me what it means.
Street right-of-way line? Was that your concern?
No. No.
I'm not seeing street line in an isolated sense in the Article 6 COPUD M72 overlay revision.
Okay. If I find it later, I'll bring it back up, but right now we need to move forward. So thank you.
Yep. Sounds good.
Anything else, Denise?
No.
Randy?
I have a couple comments. Number one, I want to address a public comment that was made before about the origin of the COPUD and what were the actions that it was created about 30 years ago. And then subsequently it was, according to the records that I was given from the township, there were 4 rezonings that happened in 1999, 2000, 2001, and then 2005. And those are listed as rezonings from one district to another. So best of my knowledge, the map is correct. I also want to go back to the master plan, which when we began that process, one of the first steps was a survey of residents, and we asked them a number of questions. They touched on a lot of different development issues, and we asked them about the development along M72 and their feelings about that and what they would like to see. And I happened to have it with me, and it said, and one of the questions, you should go back to the original information there, but it said, generally speaking, residents want to see commercial development along M72 have smaller building footprints under 75,000 square feet, mixed uses, potentially retail, services, office, residential, controlled signage, limited number of driveways, and extensive landscaping. So that's what drove some of the conversation about the need for something along M72 that was kind of contrasted with the COPUD, which has been kind of a pet peeve of mine for a long time, and that it's a really, it doesn't work. It's cumbersome. It's confusing to people. It's confusing. It's a problem. I support it being replaced with an overlay district with some basic standards. I'm not sure we're there yet in terms of what those standards are. But I think I would also mention that the master plan does call for future work to do a corridor plan along M72 to work with the property owners to define more specifically how do we translate those general feelings from the residents into something that is maybe more graphic, that is more clear and more precise, that we can adopt and all kind of get behind a visual image of what we'd want to see, what we collectively want to see M72 look like in the future. So I think the basic framework for that is the overlay zone. I'd like to see that the standards supported by additional planning. I'd like to see some basic standards in there now, just very basic things. I'm not sure, as I said, we're there yet, but then later, when more planning and more consensus building can take place, we can add to the overlay district and add more standards that people can all support. So that's where I'm at.
Michael?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. Can I reserve till the end to speak? I'm a little newer.
The end of our
Yeah,
discussion?
I
Okay.
just, when I joined, in discussing this, it was already in flight and he gave some historical on how this, proposed amendment, the overlay, M72 overlay was, suggested and, but there's other questions I have regarding how we got here. So that's kind of what I want to hear everybody first. That's all right.
Okay. Sadie?
Oh, I have mixed reviews on it. I do think that I definitely get a lot of the comments that were made with the parking lot and the snow and being able to be visible as a business. I think that's something to consider. I think there's part of me that wants to say that the whole overlay concept to me seems very urban. And I'm not sure that really fits in our M72 corridor. We're a very rural community. When I look at overlay districts in other larger cities, I don't really see how 72 can become that cohesive. I feel like I'm very visionary and I can see things like that with businesses and I can see a business like, oh, they should change this, that would look nice. But I think right now it's so diverse with the businesses that are on there, from a quilt shop to heavy equipment sales. Like, I just don't really see in the next several years any sort of cohesiveness by putting an overlay district. I don't see where we're gonna, if we dumb this down, simplify it, I feel like our regulations are basically gonna be what's already regulated in a commercial, in a industrial district, which would be setbacks, parking, and those things are in individual site plan reviews, right? Like, oh, your parking lot should face this way, so your lights aren't into the oncoming traffic, like dependent on if you're facing uphill with your parking lot or down the bottom of 72, that's all gonna be different on which way your parking lot is is safe. So I feel like if we are to take this and to put it where I feel like it's less restrictive, because restrictive zoning I think is really tricky, especially for small businesses that's what we're trying to promote in our township. And if you get too restrictive, it makes it really tricky for them. That if we're gonna strip it all down and make it so bare boned PUD, then is it even necessary when we already have regulations with commercial districts and what's already there? If we just go by what we already require. So there's part of me that feels that way, but then there's the other part of me that says, what the master plan says. That's where I'm kind of hung up, because I know that people want that cohesiveness and they want the landscaping, but when we're asking those questions, are we also thinking about it? This isn't, a this isn't like a 45-mile-an-hour roadway. I mean, when we asked those questions in the master plan, was that considered? Like, is it really a district you're gonna drive through and say it really looks nice? I mean, I don't know. I don't see the cohesiveness, how we're ever gonna get there. I don't see all these businesses changing and growing at the same rate of speed. And I feel for the big heavy equipment sales because they have to have equipment in front, and their place is not gonna look like a quilt shop or a restaurant. You know, they're gonna look way more industrial. So how do you mesh that together? I don't really see how we can do that without being so simplified that what's the point of even having it if it's that simple? I don't know if that makes sense.
Rod?
I think, Sadie, you're on to something. When the master plan was thought of, and I remember being on the committee, my focus was more, what do we want for our future? And as I'm sitting here tonight and listening to the folks in the audience, that in my concept of the 5-year master plan, I wasn't thinking dragging existing businesses through the process of trying to be fully compliant with the future. And I think that's what I'm hearing Sadie saying is, you know, we've got successful businesses. They exist. They happen to be now in an overlay district, and it's like apples and oranges. And right now, I don't know what the answer is, but they know what they need. So I'm thinking that's a big challenge, but we have to hear them. We have to listen to them. So I'm glad that the conversation came forward tonight. And the last thing I would like to see is the master plan become, you know, the full-throated program that, you know, kind of leaves the existing businesses behind, because it wasn't my intent anyway.
Scott?
I come from a small family business, currently running a business myself, and I hear you guys loud and clear. Appreciate all the comments today. I'm in support with Randy and reworking this and making it work for everyone. Talking with the community more, and Deb's comment about maybe eliminating COPUD and moving people to commercial or industrial that are currently listed as COPUD. Maybe we need to really look at that.
You want to hear me or do you want to?
I know there's a lot of work that we've
So
done.
I'll go now. I was a little bit chicken earlier. Especially sitting next to you. You've done all this work, and I completely am aligned with what you all just said. I think that, you know, you get into a watered down version of an overlay, and I don't mean any disrespect to an overlay, but I think there's a lot of common sense in saying there's underlying zoning. You know, you get rid of this COPUD, and then you work with that underlying zoning, and you know, maybe you have to do some work with that, but to have an overlay, especially, and within the overlay language, and I'm not opposed to an overlay, but I just think it's just a layer that may add complication to something that just needs to be eliminated. Within the language itself, I have a big problem, and I agree completely with you. This is a main thoroughway, and to start requiring screening for, no disrespect to our planning consultant, for a deer that might come across the road and someone might be parking and the light might go on. I mean, there's hypotheticals you come with all day long. And I know that I was glad to hear with the master plan and the community coming in. I mean, landscaping is always a fun thing to say. Yeah, we want to have landscaping. Well, these are business owners. Like, it's great to have landscaping around your house and it's great to make your business look really nice, but there's a lot of different ways to do that other than landscaping within an overlay that has criteria that is very defined and costs a lot, quite frankly. And the berming, I have a lot of, I drive, you drive through Acme, you drive through all these places that are main thoroughways. There's no berming required, and those are areas that are more developed and I would say further along than this corridor that we're in. There's something special about driving by a bunch of tractors on the road. I'm sorry, I love it. I mean, I got a Kubota and I got a John Deere, and I love them both. And I love driving by these.
It's good to hear.
So, I think that the berm, the other thing, the inconsistencies of like you're trying to create some beautification and some cohesiveness, but someone's going to do a berm, someone's going to, masonry wall, like that's not cheap. I know that. And if you're really going to make a nice masonry wall, you're going to spend a lot of money. And most people are going to berm or use a shrub. And then you're going to have inconsistencies of that. So you got a guy with a berm, then you got shrubs starting, and then everything's blocked in. And it just seems a little overthought to me for this corridor that I really like driving through. I like going, through it, and I enjoy it. And there's really nothing that I don't like about it, right? And I think we need to promote and support businesses, and at the same time have either an overlay or go back to commercial industrial areas and then have a really good site review, a pre-review, really encourage businesses to, there's going to be use by right within the zoning of that. And that's why the zoning overlay can help, the community get what they want. But I think you can get that without it. And I think if we do have an overlay, we need to make it very much less restricted than it is right now. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Let me just add to that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we're not there yet in terms of doing an overlay. I mean, I guess I've seen that applied in a lot of areas where you've got multiple zoning districts and you're trying to create a, common theme among them. But usually that's supported by some kind of a planning document that people have come together and said, this is what we want to see on the corridor. We don't have that here.
Right.
All we have is survey results that basically people say, well, it'd be nice if it looked nice. And so, until you really flesh that out, then you don't have the planning to support the regulations, and that makes you vulnerable, I think, to having challenges and drifting off where you don't have an idea. The regulations are supposed to help you achieve something, and this COPUD thing kind of seemed like it must have dropped out of the sky someplace, and people said, all that stuff sounds good, let's do it. But in reality, it really shouldn't have been done that way. And there was no planning to support it. No planning document, no master plan, nothing that says this is why this regulation exists. We're trying to use this to achieve what the community collectively wants. So, maybe we're not at the point of doing an overlay.
You basically took my comment.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I completely agree. I don't think this is the time. And I think that my interpretation of the remarks made by the public regarding M72 is that they probably don't want it to look like the big box stores, like we have in, south of Traverse City, 31, that kind of thing. And I agree with you. It's beautiful right now. And we have a tractor. Never would I have thought we needed a tractor, but we also have.
Always need a tractor.
That doesn't, it doesn't bother me to see the equipment. I mean, we're living in an agricultural area. So I'm leaning towards not to removing the COPUD from the 4 properties and going back to their adjacent commercial and industrial zoning, and not doing an overlay district right now.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. I thought when we kind of started this, it was to remove parcels from being both ag and commercial or ag and industrial. And then we had an overlay to take the parcels and just instead of having the legal descriptions of them change or whatever, going back to that concept, we could do that, just make the parcels in one district or another instead of half and half. Was that where we started from on this, Randy? Because there was just
Well, the purpose of an overlay zone is typically to have uniform development standards across the area. So even though the zoning districts may change, there's some unifying themes to it, whether that's signage placement or landscaping or other features like that.
Yeah, but wasn't it like in particular, I don't think he's here now, Mr. Maitland's
I
property.
I think
It was-
Miss Peltonen, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it was the 500-foot rule was a
Yeah.
little bit confusing, and I think
Yes.
that was the starting point on everybody here. Kind of sorry, not to speak for all of you, on a lot of you on why we even started down this revision of the COPUD ordinance to begin with. Then we
Mhm.
seemed to catch more things the more and more we got into it, and then suddenly we developed of a draft overlay district. So that's
Yeah.
kind of, I think you're correct. That was kind of the starting point,
Yeah,
at least one of them.
So if we go back to that initial need to have a parcels in one district or another, not divided into two districts when someone's trying to sell their property, things like that, and what the buyer can do with the property sort of thing. If we go back to the underlying districts, we could start with that. After listening to everybody, and in particularly Randy's statement about involving the people that are currently in the commercial district really need to, you must have a vision of some sort for the commercial district. I would assume that you've been there a long time and you think, oh, I'd like this or I'd like that. And we just haven't heard from you. I mean, currently, maybe in the past you have, but we don't know what is important until now. Like the snow removal is extremely important to me because of the winters here in particular. Someone doesn't know it, but they take the snow out of their yard and they put it on the north side of the road, and then at the top of a hill, and then the wind comes and blows it all as a drift back across the road about 3 feet. And, it's aggravating and it's dangerous. And I do have to say that I did ask a business to change their lights. They did have their light. They thought it was on the sign by the side of the road, but it missed it, and it was right in your eyes when you were coming on 31. And so, but I called them, and they were very happy that I told them that, and they moved the lighting. So, but there's things that that are particular to your area that because you're there every day, year in and year out, and what works and what doesn't work. But new businesses coming in don't know that. And if we want to make any changes to the commercial district, we need your input, and the people coming in kind of they might not know anything about snow removal, but we know about it. That kind of thing. They need to know when they're designing their plans. And that's where your input and your insight for being there so many years, that could really be crucial. So I don't know if you're up for that. Okay.
I would add one more thought on the overlay. The commercial signs that exist along the roadway M72 at the intersection of Elk Lake Road and M72, the north side, there are massive billboards. I don't know, is that part of what we thought was beautification? As we go forward, I don't know who owns them. It's like, that's a sore thumb.
It is.
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking to the need for careful zoning, so you don't allow those to
Yeah.
happen in the first place.
It's,
I think it may be the only large billboards on M72 between Kalkaska and Acme.
Right next to the adult entertainment place.
Yeah. I don't know where that is.
so, okay, so I'm trying to think of, I could be, so our next move would have been to go to public hearing, but it sounds like our next move is to actually decide, what we want to do with this. And if, in terms of, are we going to rezone the 4 properties to their adjacent zoning districts and remove the COPUD altogether and remove it from the zoning ordinance, the
I
existing
would think
zoning?
if we are going to remove the COPUD, we have to rezone the properties because you couldn't have its own COPUD and have no corresponding text to go with it. So
Right.
maybe that's something that needs to be prepared for the next meeting that would actually show withdrawing the COPUD. I'd like to have a review of the ordinance to make sure it's not referenced anywhere else. And then it could be a fairly simple amendment, remove that, and then rezone the 4 parcels with the property owners'
Okay.
knowledge. We would, I don't know, Andy, is there, I forget exactly where.
I think that makes perfect sense. I think you've deliberated this to a good point where you can do exactly that. We can just rezone the properties to their adjacent zoning, so that the industrial one's zoned N1 and the other 3 are zoned C1. And then the amendment would be simply deleting, text-wise, the amendment would be to delete the full article and then all of the references to it. I think that's definitely a very quick and viable option.
Is that something then that we could go ahead and have a public hearing on that at the next meeting, or do we need to have an opportunity to?
Have we heard from all 4 property owners that they would be in?
3 of the 4 were here, weren't they? Is all 4?
Heights was here.
Heights was here, yeah.
Her husband. I haven't spoken with his Guinness.
Is there,
There's very few conditions on them, so I don't think they're gonna be concerned about whether they're commercial or not.
is there things we should worry about for their concerns going from what they are right now to their adjacent properties? Like,
They do have some split zone plots.
You step up to the podium, thanks.
That's.
we're just gonna put a headset on.
Guinness does have, split zone lots where the back section is beyond that 500 feet where it is partially A. Similar to the property that was right next to it with, Jim Maitland's property, because Guinness was directly west of that property. And with the angle that, M72 runs on, it just kind of cuts that carrot off that back section. So I think Ginnup's at the very far south end may have some ag property attached to it. And I think the original, one of the things that was proposed was just running it all the way to the property line on that parcel to make it all consistent. But Ginnup's did receive a letter, so they knew things were going, and they could have sent a letter as well and voiced concerns. I think they're located in Alanson, I think is where their location was.
I don't know if Andy has any thoughts on, does that make sense?
What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I guess we'll want to see where those parcel lines run. I mean, I definitely like zoning to where the parcel lines are. But if the parcel line is crazy, are you saying the parcel might go back extremely deep or might not currently match its development footprint? I guess I'm kind of wondering what the concern is. I see on the Grand Traverse County Viewer, it looks like they have a parcel that's looks pretty normal to me.
I would,
Right, right.
And it's just this little section
Mm.
at the very base. So if you look here.
it's the same problem we had with Mr. Maitland with the
Right.
500 feet.
Yeah. Just that small additional piece because they own all the way. They do, but they only need that parcel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just the parcel that they're on,
But we would rezone the whole parcel commercial though.
the whole parcel, but not.
Deb,
every-
I wasn't able to see
all
that.
their-
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So they might own
I-
other land, but they really look like they're operating on just one parcel.
I think we're just referring to the parcel that is facing 72 and the full depth of the parcel to be all one district. It,
Right. Rather than split now, which is
Rather
a
than
problem.
splitting that
500
district.
feet.
Yeah.
So personally, I think you'd want to get rid of the split zone
Yeah,
aspect of that
Yeah.
and make it all the whole parcel zone commercial.
Yeah.
Right.
okay. So then it's sounding to me like we're not going to be ready for a public hearing in August because we need to look at.
Maybe.
I mean, this has been around for 30 years. I don't know that,
Yeah.
that we got to move immediately.
It'd be
but-
pretty straightforward, though. I think if it was just rezoning, I mean, study the sites or the properties, see what the split.
Yep.
What makes sense with the splits, right?
Right. I'm more worried about the text of the ordinance. I want to make
Mhm.
sure there isn't any other reference to COPUD that we would leave in there.
Isn't that what AI is for?
Was that?
Isn't that what AI is for?
Is,
Hey, we can, okay, so I,
is that
Or
something?
control F.
part of the motion then is to eliminate COPUD and any references to it and then rezone the 4 parcels to,
That sounds good.
Yeah.
either industrial or commercial as what they were before.
Okay. Do we, I don't know procedurally, I don't know if we need to make a motion to,
And we're amending the map too, or
Right.
we're and eliminating it from the legend,
Okay.
gone
Yep.
from history.
okay. Andy, do you think we could be ready for a
I
public?
think,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's pretty clear to me what I need to put in the memo and in the and just the deletions of the text. And I think, to be quite honest, I think you would be ready for a public hearing. I think the movement's clear on what our tasks are, at least in on my behalf of preparing the memo and such. And I think you could be ready for a public hearing, and we can do the notices and everything accordingly. That's just my opinion, but I defer to you. The one thing I do want to point out, just before it gets lost, is I think there's maybe a misconception that our draft was providing the M72 overlay draft was providing landscape requirements for the very first time. You have a very thorough landscape ordinance in Article 10. So a new development would need to do a lot of screening, a lot of tree planting, a lot of landscaping. It's just there wasn't that much tangible details on the landscaping in the former COPUD. It just referred to Article 10 in the former COPUD ordinance. So I think I just want to make sure we're being transparent. Somebody would still be required to do landscaping if we remove the COPUD and don't do an overlay. So just FYI, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And we can look at landscaping standards when we get to that point in the bundle. by
It's
the way.
another bundle here, so
Yep.
stay tuned.
Yep.
I guess the only other thing I'd add to this is that I think we should just approach this as pausing the overlay concept, until
Yes.
such time as additional planning and consensus building happens, because that M72 corridor plan is something important, not only for the visual appearance, but also access management, and there's other issues in there too. So I think it's just maybe premature to do it now.
Right. I agree. Okay, so do we want to, I'm asking all of you for your opinion, do we want to have a motion to put this to public hearing?
Yes.
And this would be, you said it so nicely, would you say it again? The repeal of Article 6,
What article is it?
it's Article 6.
To repeal Article 6 and any references to it in the zoning ordinance, and to amend the to rezone the 4 properties either to industrial or commercial as previously existed, and eliminate that district from the zoning map as well.
And put this issue before the public at a public hearing?
Yes, and proceed. That's the motion to have, to describe that in the public. So that would be August 5th.
Right, August 5th. Roll call vote, or no, we need a second first, sorry.
Second, Merchant.
Okay, Trumbull,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Rebant,
Yes.
Milnick,
Yes.
Stratton,
Yes.
Merchant,
Yes.
Pelton, and yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you so much. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Gotta do a public hearing. So I will get the public hearing. If you can get me all the information by the 13th, no later than the 15th, I can get it in the paper that weekend. I like hitting the weekend at the Traverse City paper. It hits a few more people. So just to give you a couple deadlines, if you can get that information to me no later than, say,
July.
noon on the 15th of July, so that I can meet that hearing notice.
Just out of curiosity, are we still advertising in the Elk Rapids News too? Now that they-
I have not. I've done everything in the Traverse City paper because that's what the policy and procedure manual basically referenced. I did make a proposal a year or two ago and asked that if we have a hearing set that impacts the majority of the people on the north side of 72, that we should put it in the Elk Rapids News. And if it was south of 72, then go to the Traverse paper. And this one, I think we could easily put in the Elk Rapids News and get a lot more input at a public hearing.
Oh, just recently, the Elk Rapids News comes south of 72.
Yeah.
now.
I know, I don't know how far south it comes. I
No,
don't think it makes it to Island Lake.
Does Island Lake get it?
I don't know, but they
Thanks. I
picked
know
up,
they're Traverse City.
they,
They're not
they,
Williamsburg, so.
they said they picked with the Williamsburg route. I don't know what that entails.
So if we can get it modified and go with Elk Rapids News, I can go
Yeah.
there. So just,
And
if
Yeah.
you want to tell me that's where you want it to go, I can go there. On Elk Rapids News, I have to have the ad in by, I
Monday
think,
noon.
noon on Tuesday.
Oh,
So that
Tuesday.
it hits in Wednesday's paper, so it comes out Wednesday, Thursday. So
Mhm.
I would need it, I'd actually need it probably the prior Friday to make sure I have everything, or the morning of Monday morning, which would be the 13th,
Okay, so we're still looking at the 13th.
same week.
Yeah.
Same week, but the Elk Rapids paper only comes out once a week, so that
Right.
changes the, so I need it by the 13th to get it in the paper by so it would make the 15th paper. Since our meetings are on Wednesdays, I've got to hit those, so.
So can I make a motion that we change from the Eagle to the Elk Rapids newspaper? Or is that something that we need to, since it's in the procedure manual?
I think you need to follow the
I think it has to go with what the clerk has on file in the policy and procedure manual.
Hmm.
So you can make a proposal and send it back with Randy at the board meeting next week and say, can we start utilizing the Elk Rapids News now that, at least on properties that are within M72 and further north, that would be good, because it gets out to a lot of people
Mhm.
and it's free,
yeah,
so.
it's free to us, but it's not free to.
It's free to people that are receiving it, whereas anybody that's getting a Traverse City paper is paying for it or paying for a subscription.
Yeah.
So. Okay. All right. And you may have another topic you're going to want to do a second public hearing on, so.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, are we good to move?
Yeah, we can, I guess the township as a whole has a policy about all legal advertisements, so I think, I
I
don't
know
think the
the-
planning commission can do something different than the town board,
Yeah,
so.
because I know the board is publishing their minutes and announcements in the Elk Rapids News.
And,
Right.
yeah, and Elk Rapids News is doing this because people have requested it in the past few years if they would pick up the Williamsburg route specifically for our governmental meetings. And I'll just, because I asked about this, they started out doing it in the wintertime, and the post office was charging them at the time, but they're kind of on an open ticket. So as people came back from Florida, there's more people back on the route, and their costs have gone up several $100s a week. So, if it's covering our complete area, that would be a nice alternative. It's hard to find in the Record Eagle.
Okay. So I'll contact the clerk and talk to her about that. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the winery ordinance?
Yep.
So we received a legal review, which has been shared with all of you, and Andy and Giffords Webster has done a rewrite of the ordinance, and so we'll go through that right now.
Yep. So I'm happy to quickly go over the draft ordinance. I'm not going to touch on the legal review right now, but I think we can, if there's any questions or anything like that, we can try to discuss those. Because I didn't get that till later, so I drafted this, and then and then that came in. So I do want to preface everything by just saying this is a working document. It's a working draft. After the I believe it was sorry, I'm already forgetting what meeting it was, but I think it was the May meeting. We did the wineries audit. There was the draft ordinance that Planning Commission had developed over time. There was some sentiment that maybe we use the parts that the PC has been favorable towards, but maybe kind of rewrite it with a different look, different structure, etc. So this is that draft. It's again, it's a working document. Just from a structural standpoint, we or from the language standpoint and the materials in front of you, we have the proposed zoning text amendments, which are definition amendments, as well as perhaps new section 5.16, which would cover the wineries, microbreweries, and microdistilleries. We have the standards there that we can get into in a moment, but accompanying this, we would have a general code ordinance adopted as well by the township board, as well as a noise ordinance. That noise ordinance we provided you when we did the audit, so that's something that you haven't seen. That this isn't the first time you're seeing of that, but the general code ordinance for large event permits is the first time you're seeing that. That was an idea that both my Giffords Webster team recommended in terms of kind of the large events on a event by event basis, as well as MSU Extension also provided a comment about this as well, that this is more best practice to govern individual events than requiring an applicant to come in for site plan review before every individual event. The last draft had kind of a reference to individual site plans for individual events. So that's kind of what we did with that. Instead of having individual site plans for individual events, we would have this event permit. Within the draft wineries, microbreweries, and microdistilleries proposed section 5.16 zoning amendment, we go through some standards, and then we also provide in that subsection D, we provide some events regulations on a zoning standpoint. So there's kind of two ways that events would be regulated. It would start here in the zoning regulations, and then there would also be the large events permit for those events exceeding a maximum occupancy of 100 people. I would just like to open this up to any questions, or if we want to maybe take this on a kind of a subsection by subsection basis, I'm happy to do that.
I had a question on section 5.16. Let's see here, where did I make it? 5.16B as in boy. Permitted uses are it would be permitted in the A1 agricultural district. Again, we've got this situation where we've got some split zone lots along waterways. And there is an area of town where that we have lots that are zoned both R1 and A1. So I'm wondering if we want to just add that the entire property must be A1 or something like that, so that we're not ending up with a winery that's backing right up, or to the R1.
Reen, could you?
Yeah, we can try to be a little bit more specific about that. Yep.
Page 90, 5.16B. Yeah, I don't exactly know how to word it, but I know that the split zoning is an issue for the township.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, just to recap, your preference would be that they stay within the A1 area as split zoned or within the lot altogether, no matter if it's partially A1 and then partially, residential.
I think if it's a split zoned lot that's partially agricultural and residential, that we probably wouldn't want a winery there.
Okay, so
the entire,
you would omit it altogether from the ability of being a winery. Okay. Yeah.
that's my opinion.
Yeah, so you're saying like right on Elk Lake, like there's a Dean property that goes both. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
So they could come in and I guess request a zoning change.
Correct.
If they want to do a winery. So we're not completely saying that
Right.
they're not eligible.
Right.
Correct, or a lot split and
Right,
split the lot accordingly,
right.
if it's possible.
Yeah. I support that.
One of the things that was, I'm not sure if it was the most recent legal review or because I looked at both of them. Both of the legal reviews that we had, I think the earlier one was in the fall. Maybe. And it was mentioned that we shouldn't list in same section 5.16C1. The use shall be licensed by all applicable state and federal regulatory authorities and not list the names of those authorities because the names have been changed for some of them and may do so again. So it would just, I think that means that we would just end with the word authorities.
I think that would make sense.
Or put in we're always going to have a Michigan Liquor Control Commission.
Yeah, but she's saying they might change the name.
Change. They might, though. They might. But do you want to put U.S. government, state government, or?
Well, it says state and federal regulatory authorities already.
Okay, and then just remove the rest.
I think that's what the attorney
Yeah,
was
well,
suggesting.
like Michigan Department of Energy and Great Lake, yeah, they can all change.
They've all changed.
Something really tiny, but it's not the same.
And I don't want to hog the conversation here. I'm just going through the things that I was looking at.
Keep going.
Well, now I need to find what I was. Okay. There was something about food service in the legal review as well. And I'm not finding my copy of the legal.
Yeah, it's 5 on page 91, item 5, B5. I'm sorry, just 5 food service, and there's several items listed there, A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I brought it with me, but perhaps I did not.
On page 91, my thought on that was there shall be no more than 3 events per month. I was just wondering where that originated, where the, the 3 events.
I think that page 91, item 5.
5, DI.
Because that's regulated by the MLCC, promotional events.
You, I call that's what I was wondering if that's what that was intended. I called them today and she didn't have any numbers on that. So
In the packet that I gave you last month, there's a reference to it.
yeah,
MCL 430, I'll give you the number, 430.1610.
yeah,
And you have to give the MLCC a 5-day advance written notice that you're having the promotional event.
yeah. Is that for offsite or onsite? Because I think we're just doing I don't know if it's mentioned in here, but onsite.
Onsite.
Andy, it sounded like you had something. I had a heck of a time trying to locate that state act provision or administrative rule, whatever it is. Is it in the act or is it an administrative rule? Because I also found a reference to an administrative order from 1997 that pertained to promotional events or promotional branding. I was very much struggling with that. So, Miss Merchant, if you could
I can try
maybe
and
look
find it.
into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I looked at for that exact provision,
Yeah, because
and
you
I
have
was
the
in
packet.
the act.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll try and find it again.
and if you could just even find it in the act and like highlight it or like
I think I
circle
was
it. Yeah.
talking to, I think the information came from another winery. Let me see if I can talk to them again and figure that out.
Thank you. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be really
for sure.
helpful. I saw something about promotional branding and I think the state act reference was to something about promotional branding, but I just could not find anything about the event.
Okay. Well, it could be, who knows? They change things all the time with it. So with the MLCC.
Okay, the other comment I had was on, it's page
Events
90.
and like in pretty good detail last meeting.
What was that?
Sorry, you cut out, Andy. Yeah, just if you can provide me that would be great. There's something about promotional branding that was in the act that I saw, but it didn't refer to the 3 events a month rule or the food service allowance or anything like that from what I could see. So, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and then on page 92 of the packet, it's 5.168 D? No. Oh, so I'm sorry, D1 and 2. It was suggested by the attorney that that we need to include an exhaustive list of permitted events.
That was the opposite.
That would be what?
I thought it was the opposite, that we were saying that it was, I don't know what I'm thinking. Go on. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, well, Andy, you've got I think you've got both of the legal reviews.
Yeah,
so
I
you can take
think,
a look
yeah,
and
I got it rather recently, and I just need to put my head down into it a lot more. So I'm happy to take a look at that. I'm trying to read it right now.
And perhaps I misread it. And then the last one for that section, I'd still like to see an end time for the events. I know you refer to the noise ordinance, but we do have an end time for food service.
It's under 3C, 10 to 10, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I missed that. Okay.
So
Never mind. Does anybody else have anything for 5.16? Because I've got some other stuff as well.
Got one point on 516C2. where it talks about the building coverage. And that's, I'm glad you used that term because that's a defined term in the ordinance, but it says the building coverage for all buildings on the lot. I think we want to say the entire area defined as a winery because it could be multiple lots, and I wouldn't want, I mean, if it's all the buildings are pushed over towards one area, that 5% may be hard to reach. I mean, depending on how the parcel's divided up. So if you were coming in forward with a special use permit, you would define the area that is being considered for this, and it might be 20 acres, it might be 40 acres, who knows, but it could be divided up in different ways. So it's the 5% building coverage, I think, should relate to all the area that is defined for your winery. Does that make sense?
So it wouldn't be the sum of all the buildings on the property. It would only be, because there might be buildings on the property that are not being used for the winery,
Correct.
right? So I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Well,
We're
I
thinking
guess,
we can separate out the buildings that are used for the winery.
On the lot.
Yeah, it specifies on the lot.
yeah, I think that needs some thought.
Yeah. These are two separate things. I think Mr. Milnick was saying just the lot. How do we define the lot dedicated to the winery? Do we say if there's contiguous owned parcels by one person, do we say across the whole contiguous area or just the lot that the winery is on? And so that's one thing. Do we want to just have it just be the lot that the winery is on? If there is a contiguous tract of land that the owner also owns adjacent to the parcel.
If an applicant comes forward with a proposal for a winery and it happens to be on 20 acres, it could be on multiple lots. They could have two 10s, they could have a 5 and a 15, who knows, but if we say on the lot and all the buildings are put on the 5, we might have a problem meeting that 5%. So I think you want it to be more flexible so that it encompasses the entire area that is defined as a winery.
Fine, yeah.
I don't want to get tripped up in that language.
A
So
lot of times we call that a zoning lot where you can have contiguous parcels meet the area requirements of a zoning ordinance or a lot with requirements of the zoning ordinance. So I think that's maybe what we would say.
I mean, what's the intent of the percentage? Is just so you don't build this massive thing that's
a monster winery on 5 acres.
Yeah.
Or 10, or whatever it is. I mean, there's obviously examples of that in Old Mission with.
Yeah.
The other factor though is what Mr. Sherman I think was saying was, do we restrict do we say that this is for all buildings or is it just for winery buildings?
Right. At the last meeting, when we discussed this, I thought it was all buildings.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's when someone comes in as like a couple of investors, they come in and they buy acreage. They're going to put in their building and their landscaping and their produce of their whatever they're going to make their wine out of. They're not going to be concerned. They're not going to worry about density of buildings and on their because they have a certain design. It's more for people who already have existing buildings on the property. And, they might.
Okay, so we need to look at that further.
I think just for my 2 cents, I think the all buildings was what we landed on last meeting, and I think I would still maybe prefer that because I think part of this ordinance, the reason is to give people flexibility, give agricultural properties flexibility. So don't, if they have a building that they don't really know what they're doing with yet, and they don't know if they can use it or not, I think we just need to include. Sorry, I guess maybe that doesn't amount to flexibility, but it amounts to consistent interpretation. The other thing is, the other reason you regulate coverage is for stormwater management. I know that for properties this big, that might not be that big of a concern, but then that's why you would do it for all buildings, is because you are being consistent for the lot across the full spectrum of whatever buildings might be on there. But yeah,
So
just giving a couple thoughts.
does the addition of the words zoning before the word lot
Well,
fix it?
I mean, it's possible that a owner of a couple hundred acres may want to carve out a piece of that farm for a winery, right? So you may not, and it may be taking a couple of the parcels together enough to meet our minimum requirements. And then the rest is not part of the winery. They're just pursuing the 20 acres or whatever our minimum is, as the winery. And that might be 5 acre parcels. It might be whatever. I don't know. So let's
Yeah.
just make it flexible.
Right. And
So-
I'm just not sure how to,
So the winery would have to define the special use permit area. They have to come to they're gonna give us a drawing that shows 20 acres or whatever as a winery. And
Designated winery area.
yeah, and so they may have adjacent property that's not part of the winery, right?
Yeah.
Could be.
but how do we make it work so that if somebody's coming in with, what's our minimum, 10 acres?
Yeah, you changed it to 10.
We changed it to 10. Okay. So if somebody comes in with 10 acres and wants to put a winery there, that we're not just looking at the winery buildings in that situation on a smaller piece of property.
I have a question that's kind of related to this. We start out with an on-site tasting room. Is that still in this proposal anywhere?
I believe so, yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
It is. Okay. I just didn't, I was glancing through it. I didn't see it.
I think it's in the definition, a room located on the same parcel as a winery.
Yeah, and then the whole standards in C, in that 5.16C, are written to say wineries, microbreweries, microdistilleries with tasting rooms. So, because I think the point is if you are a vineyard growing grapes, you're just agricultural, and shipping, and sending, producing a crop, you're just an agricultural use. It's the reason we're reviewing this, right, is the tasting room purpose in events,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
But you're not just, you need a wholesaler license to grow a product and for example, you make wine and or the juice and you sell it to someone who produces it, or you just produce wine, you bottle it and someone puts their label on it. They're called shiners that you sell. So there's a lot of terms in what you're doing. I probably more. So yeah, somewhere in here, I'd actually like it to say on-site tasting room on premises.
You mean
Versus-
besides the definition of tasting room? Because it's stated in that.
Yeah, it is, but there's two tasting rooms in the definitions through the Liquor Commission. There's on-site and off-site.
But we're only referring to on-site.
And it says that, where's the word that says on-site?
So if you look at page 90 of the packet, the definition of tasting room is a room located on the same parcel as the winery. You see that?
Yeah, I do see that, but
Doesn't that mean on-site? I mean, I think right now, the way it's written, we're only allowing on-site.
I would like it just actually state that sentence, because tasting rooms, you can produce wine, you can have an on-site winery, and then you can also have off-site wineries as a producer.
That'd be another site plan review at a different site, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, and that would probably only go in your commercial district. Maybe that might be something like a restaurant or a lounge or
An off-site, No.
Yeah.
It can be anywhere.
An
Um,
offsite tasting room?
Yeah, you can have it.
But I think we're just focusing on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If someone comes in and they say, oh, you have a tasting room, I'm going to do an offsite tasting room. We don't have anything that says on-site, offsite.
Why would we be restricting an off-site tasting room? I don't understand. It has nothing to do with what we're looking at here.
I know, well.
This is a winery, cidery on a piece of property.
I'd like to, I know,
What's off-site or on-site? We're on-site.
yeah, I would like to, after we do this, go on to the commercial district and maybe come up with an off-site tasting room in our commercial district, because that would fit in with our area. There's no need for infrastructure. And that's what I'm thinking, that this will, we can eventually go forward with that and develop more, a possible business in our.
I guess then we can
district.
change the wording at that time, but I don't think that really fits right now, to be honest.
Okay.
If we can go back to what we were talking about, the buildings.
Yeah.
We kind of got derailed there, but going back to the buildings, I think that that's a good idea to have a designated site plan area.
There'll be a special use permit coming to the planning commission, and it's going to define the area at which the winery is being established, and it's going to include one or more parcels. And I just want to be clear that the 5% applies to all of it, not just one parcel, which just gives more flexibility to the wineries, because they could very well have buildings concentrated in one portion of their lots.
I agree.
Okay, I do too. So would we be changing something in C2 then to state if,
Yes, we would say zoning lot, and then we might define zoning lot. Yep.
I guess as
I
long as.
think yep, I think I know what to do there. I think that makes sense, Randy. Yep.
Okay.
Which item is that? Section?
5.16 on page 90.
Yes.
C2. I had a question about the proposed general code ordinances for the large events. D1, item C and D. So this ordinance is proposing that you have to come in separately for a permit to have a large event. Is that right?
Correct. And to have the event exceeding 100 people, you would file an individual large event permit.
Okay, so the copy that's referred to in D1C, copy of approved site plan on file. So that's the site plan that we've reviewed and approved.
Correct. Yep, the original site plan that says this is a winery going forward with the setbacks and parking and buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Yep.
The thing I was concerned about is that then in D, the sketch plan is being reviewed by the town board. Not by us.
That's a very good question. Would you recommend you be the reviewing authority perhaps for that? Or do you want to keep it in township board?
My concern is that we would supposedly already be familiar with the site plan that we approved. And so then to suddenly have the board reviewing the sketch for the large event, that there might be a little bit of a disconnect there.
I agree.
I agree.
I thought in the last meeting, we had talked about event standards and how with the number of people, it's tricky. Like Randy had said, how do you know how many you're going to have? And so we were going to try to veer away from defining events by the number of people and try to more define them by safety standards, which is what a lot of ordinances that are controlling wineries are moving to, because it's very difficult for you to predict how many people are going to be there. I also think like having to come and do this process for an event over 100 people is crazy. I mean, like if you can have two a month, two or however many a month, I mean, look at that process, like, and then you gotta wait for approval. How do you plan anything as a business when you don't even know if you're gonna get approved? Like you'd have to plan your events out 6 months ahead of time versus if you're like, let's do a holiday open house or you couldn't do anything because, I mean, think of if we had ended up with two wineries in our township and every time they wanted to do something, they had to come to us and we already have that's a lot of approvals and going through. And I feel like with their individual site plan review, they're gonna know what kind of events they can and cannot have when we changed it to being regulated by safety standards where we know what the fire department, what the health department is gonna or require them to have based on their individual site plan. Like, this is how you are, okay, if you want to do any sort of event, you have to have this much parking, you have to have this much, you have to have access to, the fire department has to have access. I thought that was the route we were going because going above and below 100 people is very tricky. Plus, I think that this is just very taxing on local government to approve every single tiny little thing. That's what it feels like to me anyway. So I don't know how I feel about that. Plus, like Randy, we talked extensively about that. Like, you don't know if it's an outdoor event, how many people are going to show up. I mean, how do you predict
I
that?
think I brought that up in terms of parking and
Parking,
sanitation.
so back to safety regulations, right? Like, back to controlling event sizes and what a winery can and cannot do by what their ability is at their location, right? I feel like that's
If I'm not mistaken, no other places have event permits that exist for larger events, so I'm not sure if we can look at, I believe Peninsula does a separate event permit. I don't know that it required town board approval.
I have never seen that, but I could be wrong.
Can't remember if it.
I think the concern is very valid, and I do think one of the reasons for it is to be able to put, I guess, to analyze and be able to observe the temporary nature of events. So
Mhm.
I think it's because we're allowing temporary things like tents, temporary structures, you know, those naturally evolving, I guess, temporary uses and accessory uses to occur in conjunction with the events. That's kind of why we went the large event permit route, because these are just, you know, I don't know if you can expect the other route where you just get approved once and say all of your events will look like this, where the people gather here in this distinct area and the bathrooms are here in this distinct area. You're not bringing in extra tents, you're not bringing in extra bathrooms. So I think that was why we went this route, but I do get your point too.
Yeah.
That if you want something more static, then maybe you get rid of the large event permits. But if you want to allow dynamic, flexible, temporary type of uses, then maybe you go the event permit route.
So let me
Just a
share a
couple.
real example of a winery doing an event and concerns that arose with regard to the fire chief being able to turn his fire truck around if there was an event, and there was concern about can the fire truck get in and out if there is some kind of an emergency? And so that was a very real concern in place. So I can see the need for some review of large events. Perhaps it doesn't need to go to the township board. Maybe it's a zoning administrator decision that if there's proper sanitation, there's proper overflow parking, and there's
Yes.
proper, and fire chief review, you could address the major problems associated with that. And then maybe that the approval has a cap on it in terms of number of people, that the
Right.
winery cannot have more than X number of people at this event, and you have to turn them away
Mhm.
because it's not been designed for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It says under 100 or over 100, but they don't say once you're over 100, is it under 2,000? Is it under 1,000? So that was where the review would come in, and because when you say if you're having a wedding and people invite 100 people, you know, they can give you probably their RSVPs, and because you're going to plan food, or they're going to plan food, and you can do parking and all that. But if you're having an event where you don't know how many people are coming, like I don't know, like craft fair maybe, and you have it throughout the day, there may be 500 people that come. You're hoping 500 people come, and you have to plan for successes. And that's where I think some of this event planning comes in. You never know when you have an event how many are coming, but if you have more than you expected, it ends up being quite the mess in terms
Well,
of.
then you just like a restaurant, like anybody that has a max capacity, then you're done. There's no parking, you turn them away. So
Yeah.
I saw one winery, their occupancy and safety was the total attendance shall be determined by the occupancy load set by the township fire department, inspection code, and the health department. And so once, you'd have your events, you'd meet with them, and probably the supervisor, and you would know, or the administrator, you know what you're allowed and what you're not, and it'd be no different than a restaurant or a business, or here, we know our occupancy, we're maxed out. I mean,
But when the activities happens within a building, it's easy. When it's
right, and if it's outside, I mean, but that's why we have that's why if, okay, the fire department, they get a complaint, they show up, you're over, you get shut down. I mean, that's real life, right? Like, how else do you regulate it?
That's the way it should be.
That's how it should be, absolutely. So I guess when we're writing this ordinance, I understand the concern and I totally get that, but like, you have to remember too, like, whoever owns that business is putting their business on the line too, by not following the rules. So if they're not gonna follow the rules, then they're gonna get shut down. Like, we can't not approve something or so tightly regulate that it can't be done because we don't have faith that people are actually gonna do it the right way, right? You were doing this, that they're gonna do it the right way.
But the lengths to which, for example, the emergency vehicle getting a fire truck included in the example I mentioned, having them widen the driveway so that the fire truck could, in fact, get on asphalt rather than expecting it to go across the field in order to do emergency services. So it's a real amount of review that needs to happen.
For sure, yeah. And I just think we need to have that. I totally agree with you. I totally agree, but I think that we can do that with the fire department and the health department, and we can regulate events by what the individual winery can actually withstand versus specific number of people, because that's tricky.
To me, I see two tiers to this question. I think the special use permit should, if the winery wants to have an outdoor area, I believe it's, like I've said all along, special use permits are very detailed and they have to be very well thought out. And I think that within a site, an outdoor tent for a normal use, I'm going to call that normal use, which I mean is not a special event, a large event. It's just a normal use that the special use permit approves. Say it's a footprint of the tent, an area that's reasonable, that everybody can agree that you might have to have some sanitary on site. You might have, but the parking is adequate. There's really nothing really to be concerned about because the site supports it. But then if that same winery wants to do a mega wedding or something that exceeds that, that takes it to another tier. And that's acceptable, but that's a special event. And that's what I think that the special use can, I think what you're saying, you're both saying things that can be regulated, but there's a lot of open-ended opportunity for someone to just have mega events all the time. And it's like, well, you don't have to come and talk to anybody about it. But at the same time, a winery should have something, in my opinion, during the season where they can have outdoor events that are more reasonable. So maybe the special use defines that, and that goes with the approval. And they can petition for as large as they want, but they got to show that the parking, emergency vehicle vehicles can get on and off. They have it all planned out and everybody agrees so they get that approval. You can do that whenever you want. But if you want to exceed that, we'll consider it, but then that maybe goes to the council or
That goes this route.
yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So that's that second tier. I get it. You got a band. Kid Rock wants to play at your winery. That's a special event, right? He's in town right now, by the way.
Really?
Is it?
Yeah, it's
At Torch Lake?
yeah, his plane's at the airport. I won't just
That's a
Google
good
it.
plane.
It's a good plane. So if that happens, yeah, we want to look at what you're going to do for a special event, and maybe there's going to be some loud music, maybe not, whatever. But that's how I see it. So there'd be a split. One that would go with a special use that they can use, and they can have outdoor eating and even small parties, but they're limited. And then if you want to do a special event, you can add on to that tent maybe and have us plan. And if you do it over and over again, you're probably going to come in here and get approved pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you're not just open-ended saying, we're going to trust you to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. Like, I think it's too much to have to do every event that way, but if you're approved for this is what you're approved for. But if you're gonna go beyond that, that's gonna be you're gonna have to come in here and you have to do your work to make sure that that can happen safely.
It's a special event petition
Mhm.
If
the
there's
council.
a
Maybe.
pattern of noise impacts,
And-
then that's.
Yeah, then sorry, you're not doing it. Yeah.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I think I know how to draft it, and I think
Are you
it's
following us?
yeah, I think get rid of the large event permit and instead tighten up just a little bit of the language here in that subsection D. Get rid of the delineations between people and occupancies, but perhaps make a more streamlined process for somebody that wants to have a really set in stone static site plan that they're not doing a lot of deviating from. But then give a different layer, the different tier, as Mr. Sherman said, for the person that wants flexibility, that wants to be able to install temporary structures when when the event need comes up, and just do it that way. Is that kind of your general thought, everybody?
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That there would there be a template that the business owner would provide to the zoning administrator of the event where everything is?
There could be, so that was
Parking.
mentioned before, that would the zoning administrator, would they then approve individual tents on a one by one basis then administratively? How do you feel about that?
No.
Would that be the solution? Okay.
I'm thinking more of the template for the event. Usually, if you're going to put up tents, you put it in the same pretty much the same location on your property.
Mhm.
If you have one tent, you put one tent, and two tents or three tents, just different locations. But you then delineate your parking also in that, and the location of the driveway, and your food and
Okay.
your bathrooms and things like that. I just don't, I just see people when they're having an event, if they're professional event centers, everything happens kind of in the same location. Um, and even people who work an event know that they actually, I had one, and the DJ came in and he said, "Oh, put your tent here. I'll put my setup here. Put your bathrooms over there." And I'm like, he's been to so many, he just knows where everything goes and all that. And I was just like, I didn't need to hire anybody. I just had him come over and preview the location. So there's almost a template to every property, I would think.
And I think that's where that site plan review comes into play.
So are you talking about the first tier, the one that they can do unlimited, or the second tier?
Unlimited, when you mean under
Under the special use permit.
when you I don't know if you're talking numbers or if you're talking.
So we're saying that if you apply for a special use permit for a winery and you want to have an outdoor area, you can include that in your special use application. And if it's approved, then you have pretty much a defined smaller level outdoor area event. area that can be used without coming for an event permit, let's call it.
That sounds reasonable. And when you get your licensing, you can have your outdoor serving area that you designate as
Yeah,
well. I mean, that's part of the,
that's all part of this, that special use. If they want to get it approved, they have to show all that perfectly. And then if they want it, if they got all that and then they say, hey, we got a special event that exceeds what we have, then they have to come in for a special permit for that event. And then they have to convince whatever body they're in front of to allow them to have that. But they have to come in for a special permit for that. That's what we're talking about doing.
Still require a drawing that showed.
Yeah.
Now they're gonna have overflow parking and all that sort of stuff, so.
Yeah. and the,
Administrative approval versus
Yeah.
planning commission approval.
yeah, the zoning administrator would know, you know, through the fire department, our main code enforcer, the fire department, would go over the site and the plan of the site, and they would know numbers. They would be able to just tell by, they take the dimensions of the building and the location of the bar and whatever, the tables, and they know the exact number of people you can have and things like that. So,
Okay,
Maureen,
yep,
can we take a time check?
9:40. Do we need to take a break?
Well, I'm just wondering, I'm fading.
oh yeah.
I mean, this is a long night.
Yeah.
It is, I agree. I'm sorry. I agree with you completely. We started at 6. So do you want us to continue with this, or do you want to work on this some more and then go on to the Article 22?
I do think we need to get to Article 22. So I think we've given Andy, are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here. I think I know what to write. I think it's pretty clear. So I'll get you something at one of the upcoming meetings, hopefully this August meeting, if I can do so in time.
Let's plan on that. And then if everybody's okay with that, we'll move on. I just have a quick STR survey update and we'll get to Article 22. Can you make it?
Yeah. Can I just give a date? Peninsula Township is having a right to farm presentation by Ryan Coffey Hogue, and it's open to the public on Monday, July 13th from 12 to 3. So if you have any questions,
When is it?
it's Monday, July 13th, 12 to 3 p.m. And it's Peninsula Township and it's open to the public. So if anybody can't make it, but they want to ask a question, you can send it to me, or because I'll be going, or anybody else.
He was at the agritourism summit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, are we good on the wineries for now?
Yes.
Okay, we will wrap up as quickly as I can. Okay. So the STR survey, they've received 400 responses so far. He still has to go through those and make sure that they're complete surveys and that sort of thing. The biggest change is that since it's a holiday weekend, he's not going to get back to it until July 7th. So we're going to leave it open through July 6th. What? So we will post that on the website, but get the word out. And there were some comments made about the survey at the meeting last night, and I'm not sure what they were based on, but as far as I know, he's been extremely responsive with people calling him. I know Deb's been giving out Kelly's number, to reach him if you haven't received your postcard, but I did hear that some people only received their postcards this week. So, yeah. So we can't control the mail, unfortunately, but they did send out, I think 1,670 postcards, and only 7 have been returned as undeliverable. So I don't know where all the missing postcards are, but that's my update on that. And then, any questions on that?
How's the phone survey?
Oh, that was
Ordered?
that was completed before the online survey was open. Yeah, they got that within the first week. Yeah. Okay, so new business amendment to Article 22, violation section 22.01. This was revised after it was put in our packet. So it's Article 22.1 and section and 22.02. Randy gave us all a copy of the revised. If you were at the meeting last night, you're already familiar with this, but if you're not, we can.
Sure. So we
ask
had a
questions.
meeting last night. It was in Elk Rapids because it was a larger venue. There are other choices to make for different places, but that's, there's issues with Mill Creek as far as the setup of that. There's issues with Woodland School in terms of the internet. And so anyway, Elk Rapids was chosen as a site. The facility worked well. I'm told the internet stuff was fine, and all comments I got back said everything went well with that. So anyway, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of public input with regard to the moving to a civil infraction system for ordinance enforcement, not only the zoning ordinance, but all the general ordinances. There were motions made by the town board. The motion made concerning the zoning ordinance was that the town board is directing the planning commission to review and amend zoning ordinance Article 22 violations per the attorney's recommendation, conduct a public hearing and provide a recommendation to the township board as presented. And that's the material that's in front of you. So it's a zoning amendment that we are looking at. It goes through the same process that we look at any other zoning amendment. The language is here. There was a presentation at the meeting last night from the township attorney, went on and described why this is a step that the township should take. I was struck by the statement that of all the townships that they work with, Whitewater is the only one that doesn't do this. And most townships have general ordinances as well as zoning ordinances with one exception, Whitewater. They and the attorney's experience, everyone uses civil infraction as a way of enforcement. So the next step for the planning commission would be to schedule that public hearing and to get additional input and then make a recommendation to the town board for action on this. We did talk about the possibility, if the planning commission wishes, to have the township attorney attend the meeting and help answer technical questions. There is a PowerPoint that was given and is available to anyone to look at. He could do that again for the benefit of those who maybe weren't at the meeting or for planning commission members. But, we would make him available.
Where does this fit in our priorities? We've got the survey coming up, the results, talking about a workshop. We've got all these other things underway. Is that something that has to be resolved in August or September? Or where do you think the board is looking for that feedback from us?
I think they're looking for it as soon as possible.
What's that mean?
August, to have a public hearing at the August meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Or a special meeting.
Or a special meeting. Mhm.
Because it may be a large venue that you'll consider.
Well, that's the other point, is
Yeah.
to bring up the question, and we've talked about that with Reen about whether you would want to have a large venue again, because there's a possibility. We've already scheduled a hearing for August 5th. If we do it at our next meeting, that's puts that to that meeting date or a special meeting. Obviously, we got to get 15 days notice for it.
Well, I'm gonna put on the table, I think there's just too many moving pieces right now. We need to figure out which are the ones that need to be sequenced here.
We've had multiple public hearings at planning commission meetings before.
We're sitting here
Yeah.
It's almost 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
4 hours. That's not the way to run this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think when they had the joint meeting, that was one of the questions I posed was, what is the priority of everything that we're doing? I was not there, but we serve the township board. What they want is what they prioritize everything that we're doing. They can put something in front of us right now and want it back. And if this is what they want, then we got to start working on it. We might have to shuffle some of this other stuff, but
It was unclear when this would come up in terms of scheduling the meetings and so forth, and it was,
I don't want to remind everybody, but we're in summer. It's the beginning of July.
the best time of the year and the night of the
Hey,
world
yeah.
and
it's-
the soccer game tonight.
I want to hear the priorities. I want to hear them from the board. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I think the board acted last night that they're asking that the planning commission address this.
Tell us what the priorities on everything else that we're doing.
I think this takes a high priority. We can definitely get that confirmed. And I'd like to suggest that we schedule a special meeting for just for Article 22.
Agree, just from what I heard about.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be a big public hearing, so.
Right, and in order to try to keep the meetings a more reasonable length, I'm sorry, Rod, I consider this to be two separate meetings, and so I know we've been here for a while, but I think
Well, we had this discussion 2 months ago.
Yeah.
We're trying to fit all of these things together and it isn't working very well.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of issues to deal with, and
I understand that, but I
So-
need to know priorities. I think if the board isn't hearing our priorities, maybe they are. But we are doing the best we can, and I want to have the right answers. I don't want to just be jumping through a hoop and not doing what we've been asked to do.
I think for me, the forest to the trees is we're changing a lot of language and, you know, we're looking at packets and that's a huge amount of work. So I don't think that a body like this is normally doing that. And I don't think it's anybody's fault, but that's to me what the main impact of looking at and working with consultants and doing all this language review. It just takes a lot of time. And meanwhile, we have something like this, which I believe is like a quick strike thing that needs to be done. And, you know, it's just adding to, you know, and then we're doing, you know, this is kind of regular business or important business. But meanwhile, we're reviewing, you know, wineries and we're going over zoning overlays and I think that's what's really, that's what I believe is really impacting the way you feel. And I'm just stating what I believe is giving some friction here and adding so much work to what we're doing. I think that's, to me, probably 75% of what's really taxing us right now with work. So it's not an answer to your question. But you know, they're going to have a priority and we're doing this as a planning commission. And it's a unique body of work we're taking on. And so you know, this seems, and I know it was a huge meeting. Obviously they had to do a venue change, but I believe it's pretty straightforward, right? It's not gonna like.
Well, again, I think it's been mentioned by the attorney that we are a rare bird in this whole scheme here. And for whatever reason, that's been resisted in the past. And there's reasons that you heard about last night. But the common practice is that zoning ordinances and general ordinances are enforced by civil infraction, and our ordinance does not do that, and there's public testimony to hear again, and,
But the evaluating what's in front of us is not like going through a ciders and water and
Exactly.
winery packet. This is it right here, right?
that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so I believe that there's going to be a lot of public opinion on this matter.
It has been.
And yeah, so, but at the same time, I don't think it shouldn't take a long time to get to a point where we're going to vote on it. Is that fair?
And we've talked about like the next bundles, going back to the separate meetings, which I think will be helpful for sure.
Well, I'm still coming back to, there's just way too much priority. It appears everything's priority. This
Well,
project, this right here, has been in place for years. What triggered the reaction to say, we need it now? I
well,
know that there's been lawsuits, there's been cases like that, but the questions that were asked yesterday evening, there were a lot of questions. Some of them, they're resolved when this happens. But what is the requirement to move this through? I mean, what are we going to save? What are we going to do? We have short-term rentals. That's a huge one. We haven't even begun talking about the workshops. Maybe we have, I don't know. But there's a lot of preparation work. I just.
and many of these issues take on time. I mean, look at the short-term rental issue where we have the workshop, we have the survey, we're taking our time, we are doing this properly. These are on a long trajectory of steps that need to take. And, planning commissions have to walk and chew gum at the same time and have multiple projects that are in the hopper and down and moving forward at different paces, given their complexity. I think you're right. This is a pretty straightforward thing. Either it is recommended or it's not. We're not going to debate language here with the attorney about one point or another for the most part. I mean, unless people here have a law degree. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
As for the workshop, that's on hold until we get the information back from the survey. It's debatable whether we'll need to have a second workshop. It really depends on the information we get from the survey. So, yeah, it's always been kind of optional, but, I mean, what I would like to propose is that we schedule a public hearing for this in a special meeting that we determine, and that we determine that date. Well, I mean, we can try to do it right now, or we can do it, via email.
Can I recommend that if we're going to have a different venue, that if we want to choose Mill Creek Academy, that we find out the dates that are open for us?
I don't think we want to use Mill Creek because the acoustics, the whole situation in terms of
Oh, you have to
people
set
being able
up.
to see and hear.
Yeah, so the government.
It's not really conducive to that. It's fine for the workshop where we're doing small group work, but I think with the larger,
Okay.
I was thinking of the Hearth on Elk Rapids, the old town hall, because it has a stage. It's got,
That would be great. Do we have to rent the Hearth?
Yep.
Okay, because the government center was free, the Elk Rapids.
Was it?
I'm assuming it is. If
I
it's
don't
open.
know that that's true.
Last night,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was free.
Use it for free, but apparently there was they don't really want to do that.
No, not
So, yeah,
the Hearth would.
I was told not to pursue that.
Okay, that's a clue. Okay, so the Hearth.
That's
can
what I'm
any-
thinking.
Is there any other location that you can think of, Sadie? You're familiar with the town? We view Samuel's Farm. There's no air conditioning, but
There's internet there or not.
High school auditorium,
what?
high school auditorium, Peterman Auditorium.
Rapids again.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to work on a date right now, or can we make a motion that says that the date is to be determined?
Yeah.
I would say a date to be determined
Yeah, okay.
based upon available venue with proper notice.
Okay, then I will make a motion to schedule a public hearing for Article 22.01 and 22.02 at a date to be determined based on venue availability.
Second, Richard.
And 15 days notice.
And 15 days notice. Yep.
Okay, all right. All right,
Second was Merchant. Roll call vote.
yes. Sherman,
Aye.
Rebant,
Aye.
Milnick,
Yes.
Stratton,
Yes.
Merchant,
Yes.
Pelton, and yes, Trumbull.
Yes.
Okay. Good to go.
Okay. Our next meeting is August 5th. It's currently set for 7 p.m. And we will go to public comment.
Kim Angus, Brown Bear. First thing I want to tell you is thank you. I know there were a lot of business owners that were not just the ones that were here that were really concerned about the overlay, having gone and talked to them. And I also respect how hard it is to work on something and then get feedback and say, and have the guts to hit the brakes, back up and reverse it. So kudos. I genuinely respect your decision to hold off on that. That said, the proposed overlay was not all bad. Specifically, I would say 6.06B, 6.07C, and 6.08C might warrant being slipped into our industrial and commercial districts. That's access, not too long a building, and hiding mechanical structures. That would at least add a little bit of additional protections and maybe take you just a little bit in that direction without creating scary changes that are really difficult for our existing businesses. Additionally, with the edits that you made with the consultant, you remove the word permanent cabins. I wouldn't remove it, I'd just fix it. Permanent cabins may be permitted because that is a typo. And we actually have locations here that have used that. So you don't want to take out the background for why something happened and was actually built. Additionally, the yearly review of home occupations was removed by the PC. I have no excuse for why it didn't process all the way through the way it's supposed to and actually get taken out of the ordinance. So as you discussed, you mentioned, a yearly review is ridiculous, especially for a home occupation that no one knows is there. Please go ahead and get rid of that. The last item, I know the board has forwarded to you the civil infractions ordinance, zoning change to our ordinance. I know several of you were there last night. To those of you who weren't there, you're looking at a very unpopular thing coming in front of the planning commission. You will have a public hearing. I've been there. It's not fun. So just a heads up, kudos to those of you that were there. To those of you that weren't, it's on YouTube. I'd really encourage you, give yourself a heads up and know what's coming so you're maybe a little more emotionally and mentally prepared to deal with some of the feedback, because I think I said it last night, I was on the planning commission, please don't hold it against me, is not an unusual thing. It's an unpopular thing. It's being handed to you. You have no choice. It is something that you process. It's something you take the feedback. That is your job. That's where you're at. But giving yourself a heads up would be wise. I'm glad to hear that you're looking for a different venue. This is something that you're processing through the board. It's not something you came up with. So take it with a grain of salt, and we'll see where it ends up. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Let's see. Do we have any more discussion or comments among the PC members? Nothing on continuing education. I probably should have removed that. I'm going to move that we adjourn. Second,
Second, Trumbull.
Yeah,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
10:03.